time, I'll be putting some videos around security and different service available in Azure. And there will be some how-tos and deep dive as we go on. Basically, the value here is how you can leverage the capabilities within Sentinel to improve and protect your tenant services in the cloud. There are chances for data leakage, password leakage, account compromise, phishing emails. So we'll look into that. And that's why if you have Azure subscription, if you're running your digital workplace using Microsoft Office 365, and even if you have your on-premises application, basically it is a cloud native security information and event manager, which is a SIEM. And so it's a SIEM platform, and it uses built-in AI, which can help you analyze large volumes of data across your enterprise, not just 365. And which is fast and saves money and costs. We'll look into that. Basically, Azure Sentinel collects and aggregates the data from all sources, which includes users, the applications, servers, devices, and they can be anywhere, maybe in cloud, on premises, hybrid environment. And it has built-in connectors, which can easily bring on board the select solutions. We'll look into that. What are those features available? And it can exist with your existing tools and through REST API, through connectors and all that. So, and pretty much most of the stuff is built in, which is not built in. You can go to GitHub and you can find those stuff. So if you subscribe my channel, you'll be seeing all those. So let's get started. So if you look at the screen, these are your end user, the people on the road, mobile devices, on-premise data, partners. So basically, because of the cloud, your firewall, your data center is not your protection layer, because today everyone is in the cloud. And when you move to the cloud, your mobile workforce is there, and then you're basically your identity. So compare with your on-prem, where you need to either VPN or you need to log into the corporate network. Now, as soon as you go to the cloud, you are not really hitting those. So that's kind of a totally different ball game here. Your identity is in the cloud. And regardless which size of the organization you are, pretty much you have all the same challenge, because your people, your application, let's say in this case, maybe SaaS-based. We talk about IoT, anything. So it's all cloud related. And that's why you need artificial intelligence enabled solutions. So what happens, the security operations mission is to protect organization information and assets, which is becoming increasingly difficult because attack techniques and frequencies and complexities are also evolving at the same time. Again, because of the cloud, the way the attack used to be is totally different, because attackers are also leveraging cloud capabilities, advancements. So that's why you need a smart AI machine learning enabled solution, SOC product to defend and protect against those kind of attacks. So if there is a normal known anomaly or attack is there, it should just block itself. So threat continues, your attacks are increasing. If you look at the security reports, now we have IoT, it needs to be protected. And also not only that, but sometimes there's a lot of false positive, there's alert fatigue, because if you're getting so many alerts, you're hammered with alerts, your SOC, then also it's a counterproductive, and so much volume is coming, so much noise is coming. So very difficult to manage, and you have different layers and dashboards to manage. Endpoint security has a different dashboard versus the servers is different. Your identity monitoring, you're using something else. So 3-4 places, you have to look into that. And honestly, if you do not have everything in one place, you cannot really track and become really challenging. So that's being said, in this scenario, investigation is complex and time consuming, and every second matters in security operations. So current solutions are not architected for today's demand, and your legacy on-prem SIEM require powerful hardware, extensive maintenance, and they're expensive. If you need to keep it for a year, for example, and if you have 400 servers, 10,000 employees and devices, so do the math. So you need easily terabytes of storage, then you have to manage that storage. So it's a very costly thing, and then you have to patch and manage and everything. So this is where it's counterproductive. So now the cloud can help, and we'll look into that how Sentinel is going to help your security operations team with this AI and machine learning capabilities. And how does the AI and machine learning model works? So Azure Sentinel is a cloud native SIEM for your intelligence security analytics for the enterprise. And the way it's work, of course, pretty much every product is collect, detect, and then investigate and respond. So this is what you can do. And most of the stuff, if you want, you can do automated. If you have an Office 365, data ingestion is free. So you will see those automated rules and templates available, which are automatically triggered and protect your services. So that's the beauty of the cloud. You spin up, it's work security as a service. You just turn it on. You don't have to worry about any hardware. You don't have to worry about any storage configuration. Let's say it's very simple and easy to, let's say, put the data from Office 365, and it supports third-party integration. It supports even syslog, where you can pull the data. Basically, it's a SaaS model of security where you do not have to worry about anything like that. When you go to the cloud native SIEM, which is Sentinel, you don't need to have any infrastructure costs. You pay as you go. And Office 365 data ingestion is free. So it's perfect if you have Office 365, but you can also bring third party through the API. So let's take a look. How does it integrate with existing tools and data sources? Azure Sentinel aggregates all the security data with built-in connectors. As you can see on the screen, Microsoft 365 has built-in connector, Microsoft Azure. However, you can bring your other third-party data also. For example, there are connectors available, which I will show you in a moment. For example, F5, Palo Alto, Symantec, and many others. And that's Azure Sentinel. Teams keep updating that. So Azure Sentinel is based on Azure Monitor. One good thing is that it's an open and extended solution. It's GitHub, so you can customize it. You can import it, the libraries from the GitHub itself. So there are a lot of cool stuff available. If you want to customize and these detection, you can build your own machine learning models. Then you can bring your own models, and you can be using Graph API to integrate with your existing threat intelligence feed. All right, let's see what's there in artificial intelligence. So basically, security analysts faces a huge burden of triage, as they are not only have to shift through a sea of different alerts, because they're looking at a lot of alerts, but we also have to correlate different products manually, use traditional correlation engines. So this is basically can help you reduce those noise. And then when you want to investigate those threats, so there's a threat hunting model, as you can see on the screen. You can visualize the attack and take quick actions in the same dashboard. You can be proactive of suspicious activities. If you see somebody's trying to log in to disable account from IP, those kind of attack are there. And then you can take the action based on that. You can pull those reports. You can do the threat hunting against that. Now it comes to the automation piece of it. So what we have talked about is once you're done with that, you're as an analyst or your security operation working on that. So some of the tasks where you just want to take automated action. So you can be proactive. So you don't want to be reactive and waited. So for example, you can create some logic apps, and those logic apps, you can configure them, which can send you an email, or it can even be configured to take some actions. You can even integrate those Azure logic apps and send emails to your service desk or maybe ServiceNow or different workflow. So basically that is the capability using some playbooks. And that being said, here, if you need more information, you go to the Azure Sentinel website. Here is my tenant, the one I use for my personal use, but it's a production tenant. And you can see here on the dashboard, one single dashboard, it shows me the events, the alert, incidents, and it's kind of giving me a history of the data for as far as I can go back. And then I can select, if you see it's changing. So tell me what time today at 11 a.m. There were 2 alerts, 6 office activity, Azure activity or not. So if I move here, you see these things are moving. So again, were there any alert? Yes, some Azure activity, 6 p.m. And these rules got triggered, which I created. So that's why there are some incidents and alerts created. The usage is showing here. We'll look into that, what the usage is about. Office activity was there high at 2 p.m. So the idea is that once you do that, it's not necessary it's high and low. You're going to learn what's high is high for your environment. So over the time of the next few weeks, you're going to learn it. So once you spin it up, that you want to see right away, it's going to take time, and then you can see it. There are incidents. You can go to each individual incident. You can look into the workbooks. You can do the hunting, notebooks, data connectors I was talking to you. So let's take a look. What are the data connectors? In the next video, pretty much I'm going to be showing you more details on these data connectors, how to understand, how to read them, and what you can do. A lot of Azure, but I told you about third party. So you have third party Barracuda available, Checkpoint, Cisco SA, Citrix, CyberArk, F5, ForcePoint. Even you can bring CASB data here. You can have Microsoft Defender, so you can bring your endpoint data here. Web firewall, identity, Palo Alto, I was telling you before, Symantec, Cyber Defense Exchange, and you can even bring syslog if your product is not listed here. You can configure a server, ingest the data through a syslog, and all that stuff. So that's being said, this was high-level overview of Microsoft Azure Sentinel. Thank you again. If you like this video, subscribe it, share it, and I'll see you in my next video. Thank you. Another episode on Azure Sentinel. In my previous video, high-level overview of Microsoft Azure Sentinel. Today we'll do another short video, kind of go over different features here. So if you look at my screen, it is my production tenant, and I'm ingesting the data through my Office 365, and I'm also bringing the data from different services within Azure. So this is a dashboard, as you can see here. And then we have logs, because basically Azure works on log monitoring. And then we have different data sources available here, guides. So you can go here. This interface is about if you want to run some query. There are some query I ran in the past. And then you can run additional query. You can go into the security insights, look for log management, for example. And if you come to the incidents, basically I created some incidents which goes, and those are the incidents and rule you can create. You want to create an incident based on some behavior and attack. What we're going to do now is, you can see the evidence. We'll look into the alert and everything here. Today I'm going to discuss this. So there are workbooks available, and we'll look into see what are the workbooks and what are the data connectors today, because data connector is your source. Basically, that's where these all APIs, they're built-in APIs, and every time Microsoft is building it, and if you're missing something, go to the GitHub and you may bring it from there. And there are options. If your product is not listed, you can go to syslog, set up a server, and bring from there. So different ways of doing it. You can bring Microsoft stuff, which I already have. You can bring Palo Alto, you can bring Barracuda, and all that stuff. So if you look at here, all these things, Cloud App Security, Office 365, the one which is in green are the one which are connected. So there are, in my tenant or subscription, I have 39 connectors. One they are saying is coming soon, which I'm not sure which one is that. and 7 of them are connected. So once you connect the data connector, which is your source, and then you go to the workbook, and this is where you do this stuff. So data connector, for example, Azure Security Center, or let me just go with Azure Active Directory or Identity Protection. So in Identity Protection, there's nothing. So here we see some meaningful data. And then here, if I mouse over, we see these analysis or analytics, and it is bringing this type of data, the sign-in logs and the audit log. So this is coming from Azure, which has sign-in logs and audit logs, and this is where it's pulling the data from basically. And I'll just read for you the description. It gives you the insight into Azure AD by connecting audit and sign-in logs to Azure Sentinel, and gather insight around Azure Active Directory scenarios. You can learn about app usage, about conditional access policies, legacy authentication, all that stuff. We'll look into those, how you can leverage that and work on security, and also Azure management groups and all that stuff you bring in here. What kind of workbook I have? So there are 45 templates available. The one I have configured are these workbooks: sign-in logs, protections. So if I go in there, I have saved workbooks, I have a template. So basically when I'm going to click them, we can see more. View saved workbook, view, click here, and once we ingest the data, we can start looking into that. So here, as you can see on the screen, still refreshing it, is giving me the data for the last 14 days. I can sort them by even 30 days, custom, even every 5 minutes I can go, and I can select each individual application. And that's the beauty, where I want to know sign-in analysis on particular app, and if I see increase or decrease, it's really worth it. You can leverage that. And then here again, you have the users, which I have a users. You can see my user Adnan, 650 sign in the last 14 days. I can change it to last hour or maybe a day, for example. If I wanted to put last 24 hours, then it's updated right away. And query has not any results, so we go, let's say 24 to 48 hours and see if there's any data. Let me go further, 3 days. If you see, we should be able to see some data here now. And then it's just to sign in from Adnan, so it's my particular my tenant. So that's being said, that I just wanted to share. In the next video, we'll go into the different data connectors, and maybe we'll go more into different apps kind of cover. So stay tuned, and I'll see you in my next video. Thank you. This is a continued series of Azure Sentinel. So if you're interested, do subscribe my channel, share the video, and I have already posted before this video a couple of more videos in the past. Go back, take a look, understand the high level overview, what Sentinel is all about, how does it work, the high level concept. And in this video, we'll look into that, some of the different data connectors and the workbooks available in Sentinel, which I configured. We'll look into that, especially when people are working from home, and then you want to know if they are using Office 365 or any application which is using your Azure AD as for authentication, for sign in, if you see some suspicious activity. So we'll look into that. There are screen so many templates available from Azure out of the box, Azure Sentinel, but the one I have configured is around 8 of them. We'll look into that as an Exchange Online and see what's going on. I'm in my Exchange Online in the last 14 days. So let's go. Workbook is there, data ingested from Office 365, just for your information. Ingestion from Office 365 data to Microsoft Azure Sentinel is free. So if you have Microsoft Office 365, you sign up for the Azure Sentinel and you ingest the data, the cost of the data is free. So basically you pay nothing. So once you configure all that stuff, your data connectors, and then you have this workbook. So I want to try my this workbook and see what's going on in my Office 365 tenant or Exchange Online, because I want to see what's there. So we'll see if this is not available. As I said, we'll look into that. If the data is not available, it might have lost or the connector is not configured. So we can try another connector and see what's there. So we go in there and we'll try Office 365, and this will be giving us what I am looking for, some of the data. So let's say let it refresh, and here again there is no data. So we'll go back, and this time I am going to try Microsoft Azure Activity, or we can go to the audit logs. So we go there on the audit logs, and hopefully this time I'll be able to see some data from 90 days. There you go. The two last attempt didn't work, but here is some really interesting, amazing data. As you can see in the last 90 days, what's going on in my tenant. So this is my production tenant, so I do not have 100,000 accounts, so it's not in millions. So it's just few accounts I have, which is the production account basically. So data is meaningful here, doesn't matter on the number. So if you look at on the dashboard, update user 184, STS token refresh, change password with self-service, policies, user change password, are there any disable accounts, enable accounts, update services, and if you keep going all the way down, you can see, and there is a success and failure. So I'm interested in the failure. Change password, self-service failed 10 times. So I'm not sure if I did it or when did it happen. But so if I need to be more meaningful, I can reduce it to 30 days or maybe 7 days. And then it will refresh the data, as you can see on the fly, which is coming from the log analytics, which is the data we ingest. So it's not pulling it directly from Office 365 tenant. Is pulling it from his workspace, the log analytics, and then we can select each individual user here, and you can select different items and showing all the results, success, failure, however you want it to configure. And then once you do that, you can come to the more details, and were there any PIM, privilege identity. So depending what level of subscription you have, what kind of features you have, and then you can literally have an one dashboard with 360-degree view of your all services. So I'm just showing the Office 365 now. It can be anything. It can be your VM, it can be different products and services, even on your on-prem environment. So I hope it made sense to you. So in the next videos, I'll fix my tenant for Office 365, and I'll be sharing more videos around that. So if you like it, do subscribe my channel. Today's episode will go through Azure Sentinel for Office 365, as we have seen in the previous video. I did some demos, and one of the demo for Office 365 didn't work. So today we'll try it again and see how we can leverage Azure Sentinel for Office 365. And the reason is that I'm doing it just for Office 365 because data ingestion is free. It doesn't mean you cannot do for other network devices or other VMs. For example, you can use syslog. You can bring in the data from other services, even from your on-prem. So I kind of defined all these things, high-level overview in my previous video. But today, basically, if you are running Office 365, then there is no reason why not to use this. So that being said, we'll go through it, and why especially or specifically in Office 365, because you're already pretty much using the service. Ingestion is free. So it's really win-win, because you lose nothing and you get better insight. And also, if you want to talk about different organization, where people have different roles and responsibilities. So you may not necessarily need to be a global administrator for Office 365 to read this data, because you are a security administrator. And once your configuration and setup is done for data ingestion, you don't really need those root level access. You can just get away with this security admin. So I'm here at the dashboard, and just again, it's a dashboard, office activity, usage, and some of the mass downloads. So but here I'm here in the workbook, and from the workbook I have set up already 8 workbooks. So I'll go each of them. Today what I'm gonna do now is I have Exchange Online, and I have Office 365, and SharePoint and OneDrive. So it looks obvious that you can individually look at the Exchange Online by tracing and analyzing all the Exchange operation and user activities. And if you come here, it's talking about OneDrive activities, and then in Office 365 is everything Office 365. So I think it's better for this video, we'll look into Office 365 today. So let me just go and select all Exchange, OneDrive, and all that stuff. So I gotta select, I can individually select from here either way, and then showing me by default for 90 days. And this is super awesome. Again, I don't want to go to Exchange portal and configure PowerShell. It's right here in just one single dashboard. I have what I need: a modify folder permission, set CAS mailbox permission. Again, even it's helpful for Exchange administrator or SharePoint, not necessarily for security, because security do require, let's say if you have to audit these kind of stuff, that's really important. But again, whichever the case you are dealing with or what you need, it shows all activities. April, if you can look here, let me just show you. Yeah, April around 9 a.m. and I have this many Exchange related stuff, OneDrive and SharePoint, and activities by workload. If you look at here, activities by type, file type, 2000 file types, and we can dig into more. Update, create, and delete activities. Here's a chart, nice, beautiful. And then we have group activities here, user activities per week, folder changes, folders created, modify folder permission is the important one. So if you monitor, and if your folder permission in your organization, for example, for the last 14 days or 30 days is pretty much 1000 or 2000, and all of a sudden there's a jump for 10x, then you have to be concerned about. As I said before, this is a 360-degree view, bird's eye view of your whole tenant. In this particular case of Office 365, you can see all this information as you can see on the screen. Exchange admin, Exchange set conditional access policies, move to deleted items, all that stuff. You can sort them, record type, for example. Let's try this one, a record type generated, for example. And then here's another one, by user. So here's my friend of mine from UK, he accessed this. So it's an external account that's looked like I gave him some access for the file. So he's been doing a lot of activities from UK. File viewed, file extend, upload, he did upload, yes, file access and all that stuff. Now if I go myself here, let's see what's activity in my account. So you can see soft delete, I have deleted, I was cleaning up my mailbox, move to deleted items, file views. So that's pretty awesome, and you don't have to do it for every member in your organization. But again, if you have a CXO suite, high profile user, you may want to look into that and understand. SharePoint and OneDrive stuff is here, as I told you before, file previews, access, file by downloads, upload extensions. So it's pretty awesome. So I would say just give it a try. If you have in your tenant, go for it. Ingestion is free. So that's being said, in the next episode, we'll talk about more different features and capabilities. And do subscribe my channel. Hey folks, thanks for another episode on Azure Sentinel, another cloud security stuff. So this is another episode. Last episode, I was showing you about Microsoft Exchange, not Exchange, Office 365 ingestion and Sentinel, and we looked into some of a high-level dashboard and different activities by users. So today, I will cover Exchange Online and SharePoint. So let's get into it. So these are the 8 workbooks. As I told you before, I have them. So last time I did select the template for this one, and today we're going to look into Exchange Online and see what's there, and then Microsoft OneDrive and SharePoint. So let's see how much time. This is super awesome, right? So when I used to do Exchange, you know, I had to do all this report. I had to pull it through PowerShell. Honestly, it took hours and sometimes days, depending how big your environment is, right? So here, all the data is ingested in your Azure tenant, and now this is Sentinel. You can go by days and then select, hey, you know, how many soft deleted happen in my environment for whatever the reason you want to look into that, the move items. So let's pick up something which is meaningful for this particular episode. Of course, you can go on and on everything, but let me select something which is set-cas mailbox and see what's there in the last 90 days. So basically, there are a couple of set-mailbox command. Let's run on these mailboxes, and then from there you can go and start looking into it and start hunting it and trace it. Okay, what's going on? Why there are so many commands? Why there are so many operations count in 90 days on this particular these 2 mailboxes? What we can do next is let's say multi mail items accessed. Okay, so if we try that one, see what's we gonna get here. So I have another account in this tenant, mail item access. Okay, so if it's normal, fine, but if you're attacked with some suspicious ransom or some malicious code, whatever the case would be. So if it's beyond normal, if it's 700,000, then I would be curious about. So again, you have to be creative and come up with your own creativity. What is normal for you in your organization? Organization size matter, and also how many days you are going back. Basically, you want to do something in the last 5 minutes, you can look into that if something happened. And in the last 5 minutes, let me try everything. So in the last 5 minutes, because there is no data pulled in, so we can try last 24 hours and see what's there, what's going on across the whole tenant in there. So these are the, for example, emails coming in for different job portal, for example, supervisory review thing. So yeah, so something which is suspicious, which is not normal, you may want to look into that. Or for example, we can go for another 48 hours and see. Here you go. So the more data you have, the more better dashboard will come with here. Come here, like suspicious activities, external activities. So if you have not enabled external access for OneDrive or something like that, then you would be worried about. If it is, then it will be just normal. So depend, as I said before, it all depends on the configuration. On your tenant, on the setups, there are no activities around that. So if I'm going to show you one more meaningful data, to go to 90 days and see what's there. So here is the report for the last 90 days. Supervision activities, mail item access, set mailbox, set users. You see, this is pretty awesome data and pretty awesome report available here. And if you go to large environment, these will be in hundreds and thousands or maybe in millions. So that's what I covered in this video. And in the next video, we will do the same thing for Microsoft OneDrive and SharePoint dashboard. In this today's video, we will look into another data connector, which is, I told you in my previous video, OneDrive and SharePoint. And last time I covered Exchange Online, and before that I covered Office 365. So if you want to go back, go through them understand the high level overview of Azure Sentinel, how these things there, connectors, workbook, and all that stuff. But today we'll look into the dashboard for OneDrive. So basically, data ingestion is free, which I've been saying in my previous video. So if you're a tenant and you want to ingest the data in Azure Sentinel, that's what you configure it, and then you come in here and be able to see what's going on in your tenant specific to OneDrive and SharePoint. So we'll look into that. So here is nothing, right? So don't have to worry about that. You can select, for example, 90 days to get more meaningful, more data, for example, and then you can see what of the action has been performed. So let's take a look what's there. File views or previews, file access by user, file modified, uploaded in your tenant, downloaded, page views, search queries, list sharings, groups added. Maybe if you're deploying Microsoft Teams, so you would see a definitely high increased number of groups here. Site collections, folder modified, and all that stuff. So these numbers are pretty low in my tenant because it's a very small environment I have. But again, this is a production one, and then once I have that, and we put the data, hold on. So that's the activities here. I am able to see it. So that's what it looks like in my tenant in the last 90 days. Which is very low number, but you know, for environment like I have, few users, 5, 6, it's nothing. And then it shows my SharePoint libraries and sites, what kind of data, what kind of activity I have here. And here you go, one more, file operations. So you can see all the file operations, counts, file access, downloaded if you have a mass download. So let's say in the 90 days, if it's 79 for me, and tomorrow, day after tomorrow, if I come back, in the 90 days, it was just 79. If it happens to be, for example, 1,000 files, for example, download. So that's not normal. And this is where I need to be careful. And this is where I want to be taking some actions, you know. So that's, you have to be creative and do customization on your own, figure it out, work on that accordingly. Same thing, in the 90 days, I have only 22 files deleted. Yeah, if it happened to be 200 or let's say 2000, then I would be surprised and I'll have to take the action. So basically, this is what you need to be doing when you implement this AI and machine learning, and then you can create incidents and all that stuff. So we'll look into that future videos, how we can go from there. Today and the previous video, just looking at, okay, what's there available, what kind of a dashboard, what kind of features. And here it also give you a preview of let's say my recorded videos I did for exam for Azure. I can see it here. So it's showing me for all the users all the stuff you have here. And yeah, that's pretty much I have in this specific to it. Let's see if I can do something else. That's there. If we go to specifically, for example, files downloaded or files deleted, for example, files deleted, 22 files were deleted. So we'll get the data where they were deleted from, which site exactly. And these are the performance, client IP, it's showing you here, and what kind of files deleted. It also showing. This is pretty awesome. And then perfect, even, yeah, so that's so powerful. Even do one more before we do that. It's about add it to group, see if I get anything teams related stuff or teams group, which I'm not sure. We'll find out. Yeah, this is all the external user we have. Added to group. Okay, so these are external user. Basically, it looks like added to the group. What I was expecting is something specific to, but that's fine. I mean, as I said, you know, you can do it whatever you want in your tenant. This is so huge. It's a lot of stuff, a lot of information available in this, and you can take hours to digest, but again, you don't want to do that. You want to automate it. And so, but again, once you learn what's going on in your tenant, and based on that, you can start working on that and go from there. And if you do, subscribe my channel, and I will see you in my next video with some more interesting stuff. Thanks for watching. So this is something in Azure Sentinel called workbook. And as you can see, these are the defined template, and these are my workbook, which has already been set up. So 110 templates available. There are 30 workbooks saved, and basically you don't have to reinvent the wheel, because you just use this workbook and leverage those workbook, and it will do all the back-end stuff for you. However, you can also add the workbook, but if there is something available, and this is how you can develop on top of that. So what I'm going to do now, since I have these some updates available, for example, let's take a look here. I wanted to see this one, for example. So it will give you more details what has been added in this workbook, for example, and what is the required data types. Let's say even if you install or set up this workbook and save this book, basically, but if you do not have this data collection from these sources, it won't work. So you can go back and check my previous video, how do you connect the data sources. This is where these workbooks are there. So let's say here's one more of my interest about cybersecurity maturity model certification. There's a whole information security related topic just for CMMC, mostly used in governance, risk, and compliance. So once you have that and you have the data available from these resources, so you run this template, it can tell you if your environment is compliant or not based on the configuration and setup available. So without going more into the details of each and every workbook, which I will probably gonna set up a separate videos for each of them if need be, but here if you can read that Azure Sentinel workbook provide the mechanism for viewing log queries which are aligned with CMMC control access, right? So basically this is coming from industrial best practices, and mostly required by governance, risk, and compliance, and portfolio including service offering 365 teams. So basically your data ingestion has to be set up for these, your virtual desktops, logging, all that stuff, right? And it enables your security architect, SecOps, means security operations, and analysts, all of these people. So it does the multi-purpose. So for the sake of this video, what I'm going to do now is update it, and then maybe over 10, whatever. So I do not have any customize or something, so I'll just go ahead and do it. And this is the beauty of doing it in the cloud, and I should be able to do it. So I have this service is available, and that's it says updated successfully. So what we can do is Azure activity. There are some modification or maybe something new, so you can always go to the template, look what's new there. You can go to Microsoft website, but for me I will just go ahead and update all of them basically. But just wanted to give you some get an idea what it looks like if you do not have a setup your tenant like this. This is Azure Sentinel community. So usually it's like any software, you have Azure AD, a sign in, and here there again email addresses, these, so they keep adding. So that's why it is very important, because you need to gain more insight about your organization depending on logging and monitoring. So that's why this is very important to keep updating. So let's Office 365 one. So Office 365 has a lot of sources, data sources. Here it says Office 365 tracing and analyzing all operational activities into SharePoint, OneDrive, Exchange, and help you find usage. So if there are any improvements, definitely it's a must have to update it. And already I have set up 365 and already put a 365 log ingestion video on my Sentinel playlist. If you go and take a look in Azure playlist, you'll find the Sentinel videos, and this is where you can find that. So my workbook, I'm still gonna go, and you can, if you want, you can skip this video, but I'm gonna go and apply and make update all of them, because that's my production tenant and I must have, because it's been a while, as I said. And then I want to make sure I have the latest and greatest available, so I can have more visibility in my environment, and this will help me dig deeper into my tenant when it comes to pull reports, incident management, and overview. For example, the one we are talking about. So general information, entity data, customization, saves, and editing. So you can play a lot. Go to Microsoft website or GitHub. You can even learn a lot from there. So what I have done so far, pretty much completed the one I have already set up in my environment. Now if you go with this templates available, there are 80 of them, right? So you can always view them and save it. So again, you can view it without saving it, but if you want to use it for a later purpose, you can save it. So the one with green is already been set up, and the one without this bar are not set up, or it's not saved basically. So Microsoft keep adding these things, and this is something I have not seen before, so it's a new addition, which is a good sign. And you can find from other vendors like Citrix, Cisco. You can bring the data, you can have visibility. So basically what it means, if you're ingesting the data from Cisco, and if you use this template from Cisco, basically then it will, from the vendor, they publish their template here and it will give you the access and reporting to the Cisco, so instead of building something on your own, you have to do it. So it is about now Maxwell Exchange compromise hunting. Let's say if your exchange online, if you see there is something compromise have happened back in 2021, we all know that SolarWind hack and all these. So this will do the job. So I'm going to save it, and definitely in my next video, what I'm going to do is that I'll set it up and run it and see if there is something suspicious. So based on what you're trying to do, what you're trying to achieve, this is very helpful, and you should only set up and save the workbooks what you need. Again, I'm not doing any IoT here or no Linux machine, but I want to look at my Microsoft 365 security pusher, so I'm going to save this as well. You see my region is there, everything, so I'll just keep it as default. There are MITRE attack workbook I have set up before, so that's those who are in cybersecurity, they must be aware of this. If I'm running any WAF in my environment, then I need that workbook. So I hope you're getting the idea which workbook make the most sense. So you're collecting the logs, and for the logs you need to have a dashboard, and this is where these workbook make sense or make applicable. So if you have any Microsoft security alerts configured, you want to save it, and that's how you do it. Sentinel community, I want to save this one as well. I believe they have added another, in my opinion, 20 or 30 in the last 3-4 months. So that's in a nutshell. If you have a tenant, go check it out, try it yourself, and you're gonna learn a lot of stuff. I decided to put something on Azure Sentinel incidents because this is my live environment, and I'm also check some predefined rules and activity in my Office 365 in Azure. And as you can see, there's a ton of information available. Some of them are test, and some of them are legitimate, but they are all real, but the threshold and everything that's been configured, and that's why these incidents are being reported. So doesn't mean if there's something in high is a high incident, because the way I have set up those incident based on my requirement. So let's just walk through, so kind of give you some understanding. So the one I'm going to look at it here is July 6th, and legacy auth means somebody, there's an attempt for legacy authentication logging into my tenant. Now if you see, these are the details. Somebody used my ID, IP address, and all that stuff. So what I'm going to do is find the details and verify, because that's 74 IP, if it looks familiar, one of my IP addresses here in US. But again, is something you want to dig into, that you can say that. So here, when I clicked on this, the 74 is seems to be a known IP address, but the authentication detected at this time, the incident number, as you can see, if this IP has any outbound or any connection to this IP is all clear. Connection with T1 and all that stuff not there. So let's take a look what do we get here, if there is any good information available or not. This is the link to log analytics. Rule name, I set it up rule. If there's an attempt, so it could have been my MacBook or something. So this is what you need to dig into, that incident by incident, and then you have to set those up and dig into those and find more details. So let's switch gear. Let's go back basically to more incidents. So I would wanted to give you some more details, looking at some other alerts basically. And this is how you can troubleshoot when you set up your live tenant basically. Audit activity by user, anomalous activity, if there's any admin activity. But I wanted to look at something, maybe admin activity. Let's see if what we find here, and the data is available, and then we can go to the full details and see what do we find here. It's July 10, 2 p.m. my time in US in Eastern time. It's a medium, initial access execution, entity the administrator, system owner ID. Let's dig into that and find what's there. And then it comes to your log analytics, where this is how the alert was generated. You can click more details, and you can log in and see if there are any further details available, what query was run basically. That's there, and that's the data you show. Then it will show you more details, the counts and everything, the entities, and the tenant name and everything. So that's one way of doing it. And then you can put the chart, because there are not enough data available, so you cannot go and look for chart. Again, you can look for more hunting and find some more details around that. If I go back to more incidents, where incidents are being generated, then you can click on, for example, the test rule I created. Or maybe I want to give something not on the user legacy, we covered already. Anomalous, which is a high basically, and we want to see why this is. There are 4 events, 1 alert, and it appeared as high, and there have been based on these 5 tactics. Now it's getting the data and see if it's related to a sign-in activity. If you look at this, basically this is a legitimate, but I can ignore this because it's probably I was going to log in because my location, as you can see. So that's why, in that case I would not be concerned, because it created, because it's I know it's my location and I've been using this, so that's why I created those alerts and see they are working the way it's supposed to be. That's why you can do is that in this type of alert, you need to exclude your IP, let's say your office IP or something, or you can exclude the location where you log in. There could be some different creative ways of doing it. That's what you have to do. So that's where, so here, let's say if you're getting logging in from any unknown IP location which you have never logged in before, or it's unknown or not detected by Azure, this is why it's showing up that, okay, there's a request from this IP. So this is even more useful than unknown IP location trying to sign into your then you have to further dig into that. So now I do not have so many accounts, it's just one or two accounts. But in a bigger environment, if you're getting a lot of unknown IP location logging into your environment, that you have to take different approaches and do some more analysis, and then you have to dig into that. So this is in a nutshell that Azure Sentinel incidents. How does it work? You'll have to set it up, and then once you come to the dashboard, they gets reported, and from there you can take action, you can do further investigation. So this is the logs being collected from different sources, which I've already explained in my other videos, that how do you collect the logs from different data connectors. And in my new videos, I'll be covering some other more new updated stuff. So stay tuned, subscribe my channel, and watch for some more videos. Thank you and bye. Yes, hello everyone. Today we're gonna talk about Microsoft 365 Defender, which is already in preview, but we'll take a look, and I hope I will be able to open the connector and set it up. So before we go, let's have some introduction about myself. My name is Adnan Rafiq. I'm based out of here in New Jersey. My recent certification are CISM and CDPSC Privacy Security Engineer. And a little bit about myself: been Microsoft MVP for a couple of years, certified Exchange, Office 365 certified, and been doing a number of projects for big Fortune 50 companies. So that's being said, if you have not seen previous videos about security and Azure Sentinel, there's a playlist with the name of Azure, and I may set up a new specific to Sentinel if I end up making more videos. But there's the Azure section, you will be able to find a number of lectures, and there will be more. So now let's get back to Defender. So as you can see, the Defender is an endpoint. What it means that it's basically coming from the protection for the desktops. So in any corporate environment, you have Windows 7, Windows 10, for example. So you need to protect those, and have your security operation system security team to take action. So if there's a malware, if there's a virus or something, so there why Microsoft Defender gives the protection for your endpoint devices, which we can see here. It says endpoint identity, email, applications, along those. So if an malicious email get delivered to your inbox and onto your computer, so it will be able to help and protect. So here we have some what it includes in the suite, or in other words, we can say it has a dependency. Dependency basically is providing you the protection against 365 or email. So basically, Defender for Office 365 and Cloud App Security, Identity, and Endpoint. So this is now available, and this is now have the integration with Sentinel. So basically, you can ingest the data for Defender into Sentinel. So basically, in one single dashboard, you have the full visibility about your environment, and that's the beauty, because that's why you want to use the SIEM and SOAR. So basically, Azure Sentinel give you that capability to have your data collected from different sources. I've seen in my previous videos where I was setting up and configure Microsoft 365 and other data connectors to pull the data from, but Defender goes to an extra mile, which is also protecting your desktop, your endpoints. And that's why it includes, or the component of that part of this Defender are, as I said before, Defender for endpoint, Defender for identity, Defender for 365, which is formerly known as Office 365 ATP, Advanced Threat Protection, and Microsoft Cloud App Security. So let's take a look while we continue. I have just clicked on it, and then we'll go through a number of scenarios. So basically, I just did a one-click option to connect it, and here it's give me a number of data which I need to set up and configure for endpoint connected, right? So I do not have a fully configured environment, but as you can see, it can collect and give you the visibility. For example, the device info, the network info, whatever has to do with the endpoint. We have device events, for example, sign in from authenticated events. So all these events will be collected and then configured here. Same thing for Office 365. Let's see if there is something available. If not, then we'll find out. Same thing for identity, same thing for app security. So I already configured Microsoft 365. So as soon as available, it should be popping up some data here. For identity, already I have set up in my Microsoft Azure tenant. So we should be able to see that. If not, then maybe in a week later, 2 weeks, once it is available, I should also be able to show you because that's the source of the data is coming from. So there is no data, means even if I select him, I would not be able to collect because I do not have any device reporting to Defender. That's why I am not able to see. For that, I will have to configure those devices. If I want, I can just connect it, but since I do not have, I'll wait for this to pop up and then make sure I connect it, so we first understand. And also, if you need that, we need a license, M365E5 or M365A5. Otherwise, it may not work. Another good thing to know is a bidirectional. So if you're pulling the data to Sentinel, you can also see the incident status on your Defender. For example, somebody works on an incident in Sentinel, so that can also be replicated in Microsoft Defender itself. And so this is how I did show you just how to connect to Defender here. It can take some time, and what is there, then I should also be able to see the data here. This is what I'm saying. So in the meantime, we can say Microsoft Defender basically will produce alert as same I have shown you in my previous videos, and then you can assign those incidents or alert to part of the people in your team or your SOC analyst. You can use that, and then it will also allow you to avoid any duplicate alerts. So it's a nice tool, and then as I said before, you can provide a two-way or protect your devices as well, and you can do the hunting across. So basically, whenever attacks or anything happens, you want to look at the lateral move or something along those lines. So there are different ways to troubleshoot, but that's being said, this will allow you to have more visibility, which has been missing for quite a while, because you could see the data and traffic in Microsoft 365 and identities, but you did not or not able to see the data or visibility for the Defender itself. So once it gets populated, I'll I'll add that. For now, I'm going to pause it and we'll come back again. Now, as you can see, I am logging back to my Azure Sentinel and Azure Defender, which I was trying to set up, but it took some time. According to Microsoft documentation, it takes 10 minutes. So again, I see it's working. It shows connected, and bidirectional is disabled. If you want, you can enable it. So I do not have that, so I want to keep it turned off. And is an option where it says you can create incidents automatically. So if there's something goes bad, it will automatically create incident in your Sentinel. Before I do that, it says enable all. However, we can see some next steps recommendation also available here. So if you scroll down, you can find more, create, this is a review. So you can create incident based or Azure Defender, and you can also do some more extra alerting based on that. If you, I'm just going to run it and see, does it bring anything or no. If it's not, then we may have to enable it. So I'm going to go back and we go instruction. If I enable it, let's see what's going to happen here. Okay, so this is important thing. Your Azure Defender off, Azure Defender on. That's I wanted to see here because this is my also first time setting it up in my Azure Sentinel. So it's live production environment you see here. So if I enable all, it will enable for everything, and it's gonna be charging me for that. So it's going to be really very expensive for me if I turn this on. But again, based on your business need, you can turn off, turn on, whichever it is. So I'm going to turn off all of them. I don't want to spend money on these. Storage if you wanted to. So I do have some storage spin up. If I want, I can do it. Kubernetes is there. Container registries are there. CI/CD related if you want to have some investigation into that. That's another area. Key vault if you wanted to have. Resource manager, DNS. So for now, I'm going to come and turn it off. And also, it depends on your requirements. So DNS, maybe you want to turn it on. That's if you're leveraging Azure DNS services. So you definitely want to have, if you have programming and a CI/CD development environment and you're using container and Kubernetes, you may want to turn it on here as well. And also for the storage. So, and that's, what you can find more, what's going to do, just-in-time VM access, uh, and threat protection for Azure VM and EDR. So it's yes, really cool to have this feature available, and you can customize it based on your organization needs. So again, if you have this feature, turn it on and start exploring, and let me know in the comments suggestion if it's helpful, and I'll see you in my next video. Hello, welcome to another episode on Azure Sentinel, and this is just for educational purpose. I wanted to share. Those who've been watching and who come to first time to on this Azure Sentinel video, you may want to, if you're first time, you may want to go to the previous videos, or you can still watch it, but there are many videos under Sentinel library. And for this particular video, I wanted to talk about some of the features, because you have seen in the previous video, if you go and watch, you're collecting the data and everything, and then you have this nice beautiful dashboard. And but the point is that when it comes to security and event management and monitoring, you want to do some actions. The thing I'm going to explain, it will handle some piece of the SOAR as well, security automation basically. And there are different areas where you want to fix it, or you want to get some notification or something. Basically, you want to avoid some manual stuff. So for example, what you see on the screen is you're collecting the data and alerts are being generated. Now what, right? You have all this thing information, but how this information is useful to or not, that's very important. And you're collecting the data from all over. So what you're going to do with that? So let's say you configure it, you have collecting sign-in logs, user signing in, audit logs, Office 365 logs, third-party logs, whichever you collect on SIEM, which is Sentinel in this case. It can be any SIEM. And now from there onwards, you want to do some actionable items. So one of the example I'm going to cover, and of course there are a ton of incidents there, which I'll show you. And I did configure one. I'll give you as a business case, which is very common, as long as you have 365, Microsoft 365 configured, or any other services. So let's have a look, because we want to do something actionable. So come here to this option. I believe analytics will give us the information what I'm looking for. So what I'm looking here is if these analytics are there out of the box, and the one you see high and red, I have enabled all of them in my tenant. So there is something called Fusion running in behind, which is an AI. So when there are two medium type incident and the confidence level is high, so two medium becomes one high, basically. If they are weak, then it may go to low. So that's the science behind showing these events high. So those are enabled. As you can see, pretty much everything is enabled in my tenant. Unknown IP location, for example. So in this example, what I'm going to cover is I want to see, let's say I have an Office 365 configured, and we talk about authentication. When it comes to cloud, we want to make sure authentication is strong, credentials are not leaked, because it could be through email phishing and could be through anything. So we want to protect that. So Microsoft has stopped supporting or discouraging, I would say, legacy authentication. And what legacy authentication it does, does not, it just, you can be fine just with username and password, versus a multi or advanced or modern authentication where you have to support multi-factor authentication. So I have set this up modern authentication in my environment. But still, if I want to monitor what's going on, if there's an attempt on legacy authentication, because there are chances, there are different scenarios which can be using legacy authentication, could be a service account, for example. So there are so many alleged cases. So if you want to monitor and want to make sure your identity and authentication pieces control, you have full visibility, there is something called legacy auth. So if you go to legacy auth, you have these three types. For the world, one of them is just the alert, one of them just legacy auth attempts, and one of them is login attempt using that legacy auth itself. So you don't want to come and check or manually, or basically you want to make sure if you have implemented modern auth, or you still have some things which are being attempting on those accounts, whichever the case is for legacy auth, you want to have some visibility. So when you click those, the whole script is there, and it goes here like say 14 days. So what I would want to know is that if you can select all three of them or one of them. Let's say for me, the most interesting one is attempts, basically any attempt, not the login, any attempt happens, I need to get notified. And this is the actionable item I was talking about, that if something happens here, and these are the tactics are going to be applied, like initial access, credential access, privilege escalation. So these are coming from MITRE framework. So these are the tactics, right? If you click here, and you may see the same tactics or different. Let's find out. So yeah, so initial action and persistence. So this is different. So for me, and this one is also, we can check. So that's what you need to understand when you set those up and have some understanding. So this is only initial access. So what I wanted to go is that if there is something, anything which is legacy authentication attempt, which has three tactics being applied, I want to be notified. And how can I do that? Very simple. We'll go here, create, and a Microsoft incident creation rule. When I go there, I will be able to create an incident rule, which will be then appear in my incident here dashboard, which I have already configured. If I go there, I can show you, and then it will show me the incidents created on the dashboard. This is very simplest example of SOAR, which is not SOAR 100%. It's not going to fix anything. At least if I come to my dashboard, if I see what incidents have happened in my environment, as you can see, I can see this one is being happened, and I can find the details here. There's one alert generated for that and the date itself, on which account, which is my account, the IP address and everything. So you see the power of this. So I don't have to go there back and manually run the analytics every 5 minutes or every hour. It's already being run by the system itself and generating the alert based on that. So what I'm going to do is that tactics are there, initial access and all that. So in this case, I know what's being done and IP address and everything's fine. So I'm not concerned. But of course, if it were a different IP address or something else, I would have been very much concerned. So that's why you have to look into that and have to have a better visibility to give me the full what time it was in the morning, the tactics, initial access and everything, the IP and all that stuff. One more step further, let's see what does it give it. So I have not configured any playbooks. I'm going to go back basically. So I can even set up a playbook and automate it. What action do I need to take? For example, disable the account and something like that. I could have done it. But that's the idea. You can create different number of incidents matching out of the box rule available, and then it can be displayed on the dashboard and give you the summary of all incident, like admin activity I have configured. If somebody perform, I get the alert here. Audit activity, even the legacy auth alert, right? And anomalous activity, right? So these are all there. I have configured it. So that's something you can start playing around and do it and see how does it work for you. So that's it for now. In this particular episode, you can see the incidents and everything. So I'll hope cover some more information in my future videos. Stay tuned. We'll see you in my next video. Thank you and bye. Hi, welcome again. So today I'm just going to show you this dashboard and help you understand what this dashboard is all about in Azure Sentinel. So if you have configured just now, you may not have the same dashboard. So there's a little stuff you may need to do, because the data is going to be shown here is based on the configuration you may have. For example, you have to set up the Sentinel to collect the data from different sources, and based on that is going to be displayed here on the dashboard. So if you look at total alerts are there, but these alerts are coming from these activities, for example, or the signing logs, right? I can easily ingest the signing logs because of my Azure AD tenant, and if there are any suspicious activities, it will generate the alerts based on the machine learning and machine teaching and AI and the way you have set it up. On top of that, you can see also office activities, something I have set it up. And if you want to learn more, you can watch my other videos where how you can set up the data connector and ingest the log. So that's what it's all about. That is it has the activity from Microsoft 365 tenant and collecting the logs from there. Sign-in logs, again, I just told you about from the Azure AD itself. When people sign in, these are the logs are here, and all these alerts, 117 alerts. I mean, and then you have to go and take a look you know, on these alerts manually. Some of the stuff you can also automate it depending. So if when I hover, it tells me that, you know, there are 2 alerts and it's based on those 77 activities, you know, and nothing shows on sign-in log, so maybe something else. If I come here, these are, as you can see here, it says, okay, it has something to do with the sign-in logs, so I would want to go and check what's going on. Here it has gone down. So if you go back and forth and we want to look at the alerts itself, it will, the chart is real time, will give you the data accordingly, right? Potential malicious event, I don't see here anything. Nothing has been found, because with this graph or the map is very useful. especially if you want to look for some outbound malicious activities happening in the environment. It will just show you right here. So this is very important. So nothing is there, which is mean something, you still have to investigate, but there is no connection being made out, for example, from your tenant or the services outside. One more thing I want to add here is based on 30 days, so you can do it last 24 hours. And why it is important, because the number of user you are supporting in this organization, for example, for me, it's just one or two user. But if you have, I've seen the environment as big as, 5,000, 50,000, 100,000 environment. So this gets very complicated, and then you have to really tweak it and customize it, because too much data, it's become real problem. So that's why another reason to change the timeline, and also based on the particular thread or something you wanted to check and investigate. Over here, if I go to, let's say, 30 days, I have different data available. If I go to 14 days, so it all goes back how far you want to go back for particular thing to trace or hunt. And as you can see on the right side, all these things, security incident happen, usage and everything. So if I can go and click here, it will give you the more details around the security incident, and then you can leverage this and find out more. So we're just waiting for the data to be popped up here. Security incident happened on 23rd of August. And then what are those 6 count happens? And there on the left side, you can also check some of this stuff here. So it's all, you have to start digging into that. You'll have to start looking into that. You need to know a little bit of about Kutso language, the log management, the audit logs. This data is being pulled from Azure activity. There is some stuff related to sign-in logs. So basically, then you have to start digging into that and start hunting and chasing. So basically, that's how it's gonna help you. And this is where the area you can apply these different data types here, different input. So basically, from this system on, where you need to learn about the Kutso language. And also there is a chart, as you can see. And you can see which day you have more security incident versus less. So it all depends on the environment, because just example here. I hope this helped. Let me know what you think, and in the future videos I'll be adding some more stuff there. So that's what we covered here today. The dashboard of this thing, and let me see if I can go back more than 30 days. Usually it should give you something along like 90 days, but let me see if I have this thing available in my environment. So we started from June to now. Yeah, it's June to September. As you can see, now I am able to see for what, 5-6 months. So it does allow you up to 90 days, I believe. So you can do the math. It looks like pretty much that range, and you can see how many alerts have been happening. So it also helps, let's say if you apply some policies and everything, so alert may go down. So it kind of keep track which month alerts have been going up and down, and you can take the action based on that. I hope that helps, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you and bye. Hello everyone, thanks for joining in. And today I have something brand new I saw at Azure website. Is about something in public review. It's called ueba, for user behavior analytics. And now they have announced it, and I believe it's in public review or preview. And user and entity behavior analytics basically give you the meaningful insight about particular user. and I'm logged in, as you can see on my screen, where it has an option to configure it. So it's the very first time I just saw it, so I'm just thinking to put a video together, so I'm not sure. As we go, we learn what's there, because first time I'm setting it up, this brand new feature. And here, only global administrator or security administrator in your organization can turn this feature on and off. So there are some prerequisites. So I'm logged in as an administrator here on my tenant, so I should not have any problem. But here, if you look at what permissions available, and you can set it up, and it's about how Microsoft is using your data. So this is important because data privacy is important, and then you need to go and deal or read more details about data protection addendum, because depending on the size of the organization your tenant is set up. So in this lab or in this particular setup, I have everything US based, so I do not have any issue. But it's a setup you have across different countries, depending how your log analytics is set up, your SIEM is set up. You may have to pay attention to that. So we'll just go and enable it, but in the meantime I clicked on that feature for the settings and everything, so which I was thinking, but I think we can go back and simply enable it. So as soon as I come back, here's an option to enable it, and I'm gonna go enable and see what happens, because as I said, I do have permissions. I should not have any problem. So now turn on the ueba feature to sync Azure Sentinel with Active Directory, creating profiles for the user and entities in your organization. So you may have to do some work here. Here only global administrator or security admin, so I'll turn it on. Then here I'll have to select the data sources, okay, which is very important. So audit logs and sign-in logs. So basically, if you go and take a look in my previous video about Azure Security Center and Azure Sentinel SIEM, I covered that portion already, where we talk about sign-in logs and audit logs, which pulls from the Azure AD, and also work in even in hybrid environment based on the setup you may have. But here, without anything, don't see any issue, and you should be able to find. And here it says after the connection, data source will be able to enable them for entity behavior analytics. So it's telling about once you enable it, it will start just to the analytics around that. So what I'm going to do is that apply now, and it may take some time, and then we will see how soon or when this will be available, is updated. So before I go there, here are some permissions. Again, how do they use the data and everything. So a few seconds ago, so it will take some time, and then we'll see what kind of data is going to pull up. And if I come back home, Sentinel, my tenant, entity behavior. So as you can see, we have this entity behavior, but I don't think so I'll have the data available right after, but maybe it looks like it. Let's go on the overview, but again, that I was not looking for. So there is some information available. Let's have a look. So this seems to be something new, I believe, from this option, investigate. If I want to do investigation here, and then 90 plus admin activity performed. So what are those activities, which I don't know. So I'm going to click on all those 90 activities, and hopefully it will give me the data. So today is September 6th. So these things are performed basically as I'm doing it. You can see it. The things in action perform. But again, I don't want to have any alert for such activities. But if there were some activities done in those dates, which I have not worked any admin activities, then those could be suspicious, and this is what you can start looking into that. So I'll be covering more, but again, just I wanted to give you a very high level since I see this today in my environment, and just wanted to see how simple it is to set it up. So today we're doing one more Microsoft Sentinel hunting. So let me go back here. I have hunting thing, as I told you in my previous video. We have all these templates. So what I'm going to do is, last time we did conditional access policies, and we were looking at the data into like 30 days. And when I'm talking, I'm looking at the screen there, so I may not be able to have a eye contact with you directly. Apologize for that. So we have that, and what I'm going to do is find an interesting one here. And the results you're seeing is basically I am running these. So here is something also, the live and all these things there, which I have not configured. Securities I have, you can always do it, adjust it exactly the way you want it. Okay, so there are something interesting. The SharePoint file operation with client IP with previously unseen user agent means this client has not been used in the past. So let's have a look. What I'm going to do now is to basically go back to hunting. So there were some admin account activities. All right, so it's even better now. So what I'm going to see is something. All right, so we have seen something here, admin activities, which I can recall what activities I have been doing it. So operation was done, install admin audit log. Admin activity originating server is one of those Microsoft server. So if you're an Exchange administrator, you know what I'm talking about here. Then based on my investigation, I will have to make something. So if you're working a security person, then you will have to then redirect it to the Exchange team in this case particular, and they will have to investigate. So I'm not going to go and do the investigation here. And basically for these type of activities, you got to have some alert monitoring team, going to your SOC team, going to your incident response team, whichever. We have looked into this previously. We just talked about it, this one, because an activities of Microsoft may have performed some activities there. All right, so what we're going to do next here, I was going to share some SharePoint here. So we're going to look into SharePoint one, which I started initially looking to SharePoint file activity. We go click here, we run the query, or we run the query directly from here. You can look into the technique if you wanted to. You go to an open page and you can find the micro attack and techniques everywhere here. So I'm going to run the query here. I am going to see the query result here, and then we'll look into that, what's going on. Again, time range, you can change it here. I have only one page. There are some services, one note. Okay, so again, I've been using OneNote. Doesn't sound suspicious, so it depends. Since I know it, I've been using it, so that's why it kind of makes sense. So this is where, if you see this kind of activity, if you wanted to set up alert from security operations, security SOC, you do that. But when it comes to Azure Sentinel hunting, when it comes to subject matter expertise, when you come to engineering stuff where you have to dig into those and see what's going on in environment. So as an engineer, security engineer, Sentinel engineer, you'll have to dig into those. You have to figure it out. Okay, what's going on? What is normal environment in my environment, and what is not normal in my environment? So basically, this is important for you to understand, and then take action accordingly. And this is all agents and everything. So I hope that makes sense. One thing I can show you here is you can set the time range here. You can run it to again 7 days. You can change it. Okay, there were no activities in the last 7 days, whichever the case is. So here is another. So I'm going to share one more before I wrap this up. We can go back here and look for some more hunting. If there are some activities going on into the environment. So anomalous sign-in activities. So give me a second. Let me just. All right. So we have this anomalous sign-in activity. If you wanted to find any anomaly, and then we can see that it's worth checking it out because this is one of the most common scenario. We have these happen in the last few days, and you'll have to. I'm not gonna go more like. You can see from here evidence is showing okay, false, uncommon, high volume of actions, and all these. This is coming from Microsoft Graph, so maybe pretty much Microsoft 365. Exchange Admin Center, I know I used it, so that's why it's there. I'm gonna show. So if you see the Microsoft Graph IP address is different, so this is coming from Microsoft basically, and Microsoft 360 security and compliance. So I used that. I logged in when I lost to Microsoft. So so again, this is an engineering thing. From when you work from a SOC analyst, you may not be dealing with that. So again, the reason I'm telling again is I have a variety of videos available where I'm talking about SOC analyst job and all that. So this is really specific to Azure Sentinel or security Sentinel related stuff. So you'll have to look into that and figure it out yourself. And now all the queries, when you can see, are running here, and it's going to take some time. And after some time, we'll see some more updated data, updated result here. If there are any changes, if not, then result will remain same, which I hope it remains same. And then here, you can see if you click on those, you can see the type of this. See, queries going up. 100 queries, 105. Result count is jump from 11 to 13 here, and queries being run is 100. It should 197. So as you can see, this counter is going up and up. So I'll just keep this video running so you can get an idea of the live environment, how these queries are being run. And I'll wait for it to come to 197 and gets completed. All right, so we'll just still wait. It's gone up from 11 to 15. I'm sorting by result here. So now when I'm sorting with the result, as you can see, this is giving me like more details here. 340 related to Active Directory, 330 related to new admin account activity, related to Office 365. Now these 106 related to sign-in logs. We're looking at SharePoint 11, SharePoint IP, which has not seen before. So these are the things, these are the stuff, when you work as a Sentinel uh, security engineer, Microsoft Cloud Security, Sentinel, these are stuff you have to look into that, dig into that. And from there, you can find out more details. So since I have 100 active, that's why showing 155. So in my next video, I'll show you how to leverage the remaining one, because as I said before, Microsoft keep adding more and more. So in my next video, I'll show you how to add more queries. So that's it for now. I'll wrap it up. If you like it, let me know, provide me feedback, share, like it, and I'll see you in my next video. Thank you and bye. Hello, folks. Thanks for joining in another episode related to Azure Sentinel. And this time I'm going to cover non-native data connector. So example, if you have a scenario where you have to ingest the data from a source where the data connector is not available. So what would be the scenario? A scenario can be a hybrid setup. A scenario could be you want to collect the data from the source, which is non-Windows. It could be a Linux server, MySQL, can be any firewall, any device where your security operations teams want to have the visibility. So in order to make sure you ingest the data from all the sources, it could be a router, switch, anything. How are you going to make sure that data get ingested? So this is important. And why is important? Because you want to have the visibility for your SOC people, for your blue team, for example, security operations, you want to have the visibility about all the sources. So you can perform, or the machine learning can perform analytics, which is Sentinel, and then it will help you do hunting. And this will let you then create incident and automatically remediate, or you can remediate manually, depending. So if you do not have enough data, it will not make sense. So you want to make sure that you collect as much data as you can. So in the previous videos, we have been collecting the data from the data connectors available. But in that case, if the data collector is not available, how are you going to do it? All right. So we'll look at what architecture is supported when it comes to the data collector related to non-Windows, which is Linux. It could be a list, a syslog, a common event for file system, whichever is supported. So we'll look into that. So let's move on to the portal. So here I'm going to Sentinel. I type syslog here. I have syslog, and I can go to the connector page. Before I go to the connector page, let's look at the architecture. So collect data from Linux-based source using syslog. It could be a Linux-based server, it could be MySQL, whichever. So this is a very simple architecture in a nutshell. This is supported, and these are your log sources. It can be Linux device. You can also be sending the data from your firewall, from router, from switches, everything to the syslog server, and then from syslog you can send it to Azure Sentinel. So imagine if you already have on premises, or if you have another cloud, you're already collecting the data. Now you think, okay, now I want to put the data into Azure. This is how you're going to perform it. Here is one more architecture that you have so many sources here. They are sending to the data here, log forwarder, and from the log forwarder. So basically you are collecting all these logs on a centralized location here and then sending to Sentinel, versus here you were just directly sending, and it's a log analytics agent, which is the agent from Azure Sentinel. So you will have to install the agent, and basically the agent is different for Azure VM versus a non-Azure VM. But you will have to have the agent installed. You will have to have these ports open and set up on the firewall. So this will, if your appliance support, means if your appliance can be firewall, router, switches, if they support common event format over syslog, this is definitely going to work. And log analytics supports collection of messages sent by rsyslog or syslog ng. These things or commands, or you will have to make sure they're supported. And all the details are here. Machine type, Azure Linux VM, any other VM. So you will have to install the agent, step-by-step instructions there on the Microsoft website. So I would recommend, if you're in a situation, come to this page, have a look, all this information here, and then it should help you and support you. So one more information here related to that is another architecture, which is the supported architecture. Okay. Here, a little bit difference, but more better diagram here. So this is showing if you're all Linux machine in Azure, this is it. Simply, you can start doing that, because as long as you have the agent installed, bingo, simply, you can start sending the logs here. So the reason is that you're running your infrastructure on Azure. And if your syslog is on-prem like this, and they are not Azure VM, then you'll have to install that particular agent. And it is TLS 514 port, whatever is required, you will have to do it. And also there are prerequisites, request and information available, what you will have to do, how do you gonna configure the device and everything. And once you do that, how are you gonna find the data, for example, right here. So if you come back, click on the data. So this is here. Simply, you have to download, install the agent right here. And then for non-Azure. And I'm not going scrolling down furthermore because I should just show my tenant ID and everything. But I hope that gave you high level ideas. What you have to do now is set up your VM, start playing around and test it. And it's just support it, so it should work. You just may need to spend some hours in your lab and make it working. So I hope this is helpful. I'll see you in my next video. Thank you. Hello, welcome to another episode on Azure Sentinel. And this is just for educational purpose. I wanted to share. Those who've been watching and who come to first time to on this Azure Sentinel video, you may wanna, if you're first time, you may wanna go to the previous videos, or you can still watch it. But there are many videos under Sentinel library. And for this particular video, I wanted to talk about uh, some of the features, because you have seen in the previous video, if you go and watch, you're collecting the data and everything, and then you have this nice beautiful dashboard. And but the point is that when it comes to security and event management and monitoring, you want to do some actions. There is an automation piece also on that, which is SOAR, which I'm not going to talk about. But the thing I'm going to explain, it will handle some piece of the SOAR as well. Security automation, basically. And there are different areas where you want to fix it, or you want to get some notification or something. Basically, you want to avoid some manual stuff. So, for example, what you see on the screen is you're collecting the data and alerts are being generated. Now what, right? You have all this thing information, but how this information is useful to or not, that's very important. And you're collecting the data from all over. So what you're going to do with that? So let's say you configure it, you have collecting sign-in logs, user signing in, audit logs, Office 365 logs, third-party logs, whichever you collect on SIEM, which is Sentinel in this case. It can be any SIEM. And now from there onwards, you want to do some actionable items. So one of the example I'm going to cover, and of course there are a ton of incidents there, which I'll show you. And I did configure one. I'll give you as a business case, which is very common. As long as you have 365, Microsoft 365 configured, or any other services. So let's have a look, because we want to do something actionable. So come here to this option. I believe analytics will give us the information what I'm looking for. So what I'm looking here is if these analytics are there out of the box, and the one you see high and red, I have enabled all of them in my tenant. So there is something called Fusion running in behind, which is an AI. So when there are two medium type incident and the confidence level is high, so two medium becomes one high, basically. If they are weak, then it may go to low. So that's the science behind showing these events high. So those are enabled. As you can see, pretty much everything is enabled in my tenant. Unknown IP location, for example. So in this example, what I'm going to cover is I want to see, let's say I have an Office 365 configured, and we talk about authentication. When it comes to cloud, we want to make sure authentication is strong, credentials are not leaked, because it could be through email phishing and could be through anything. So we want to protect that. So Microsoft has stopped supporting or discouraging, I would say, legacy authentication. And what legacy authentication it does, does not, it just, you can be fine just with username and password, versus a multi or advanced or modern authentication where you have to support multi-factor authentication. So I have set this up modern authentication in my environment. But still, if I want to monitor what's going on, if there's an attempt on legacy authentication, because there are chances, there are different scenarios which can be using legacy authentication, could be a service account, for example. So there are so many alleged cases. So if you want to monitor and want to make sure your identity and authentication pieces control, you have full visibility, there is something called legacy auth. So if you go to legacy auth, you have these three types. For the world, one of them is just the alert, one of them just legacy auth attempts, and one of them is login attempt using that legacy auth itself. So you don't want to come and check or manually, or basically you want to make sure if you have implemented modern auth, or if you still have some things which are being attempting on those accounts, whichever the case is for legacy auth, you want to have some visibility. So when you click those, the whole script is there, and it goes here like say 14 days. So what I would want to know is that if you can select all three of them or one of them. Let's say for me, the most interesting one is attempts, basically any attempt, not the login, any attempt happens, I need to get notified. And this is the actionable item I was talking about, that if something happens here, and these are the tactics are going to be applied, like initial access, credential access, privilege escalation. So these are coming from MITRE framework. So these are the tactics, right? If you click here, and you may see the same tactics or different, let's find out. So yeah, so initial action and persistence. So this is different. So for me, and this one is also, we can check. So that's what you need to understand when you set those up and have some understanding. So this is only initial access. So what I wanted to go is that if there is something, anything which is legacy authentication attempt, which has three tactics being applied, I want to be notified. And how can I do that? Very simple. We'll go here, create, and a Microsoft incident creation rule. When I go there, I will be able to create an incident rule, which will be then appear in my incident here dashboard, which I have already configured. If I go there, I can show you, and then it will show me the incidents created on the dashboard. This is very simplest example of SOAR, which is not SOAR 100%, it's not going to fix anything. At least if I come to my dashboard, if I see what incidents have happened in my environment, as you can see, I can see this one is being happened, and I can find the details here. There's one alert generated for that and the date itself, on which account, which is my account, the IP address and everything. So you see the power of this. So I don't have to go there back and manually run the analytics every 5 minutes or every hour. It's already being run by the system itself and generating the alert based on that. So what I'm going to do is that tactics are there, initial access and all that. So in this case, I know what's being done and IP address and everything's fine. So I'm not concerned. But of course, if it were a different IP address or something else, I would have been very much concerned. So that's why you have to look into that and have to have a better visibility. It give me the full what time it was in the morning, the tactics, initial access and everything, the IP and all that stuff. Um, one more step further. Let's see what does it give it. So I have not configured any playbooks. I'm going to go back basically. So I can even set up a playbook and automate it. What action do I need to take? For example, disable the account and something like that. I could have done it. But that's the idea. You can create different number of incidents matching out of the box rule available, and then it can be displayed on the dashboard and give the summary of all incident like admin activity I have configured. If somebody perform, I get the alert here. Audit activity, even the legacy auth alert, right? And anomalous activity, right? So these are all there. I have configured it. So that's something you can start playing around and do it and see how does it work for you. So that's it for now. In this particular episode, you can see the incidents and everything. So I'll hope cover some more information in my future videos. Stay tuned. We'll see you in my next video. Thank you and bye. Hello, folks. Thanks for joining in another episode related to Azure Sentinel. And this time I'm going to cover non-native data connector. So example, if you have a scenario where you have to ingest the data from a source where the data connector is not available. So what would be the scenario? A scenario can be a hybrid setup. A scenario could be you want to collect the data from the source, which is non-Windows. It could be a Linux server, MySQL, can be any firewall, any device where your security operations teams want to have the visibility. So in order to make sure you ingest the data from all the sources, it could be a router, switch, anything. How are you going to make sure that data get ingested? So this is important. And why is important? Because you want to have the visibility for your SOC people, for your blue team, for example, security operations, you want to have the visibility about all the sources. So you can perform, or the machine learning can perform analytics, which is Sentinel, and then it will help you do hunting. And this will let you then create incident and automatically remediate, or you can remediate manually depending. So if you do not have enough data, it will not make sense. So you want to make sure that you collect as much data as you can. So in the previous videos, we have been collecting the data from the data connectors available. But in that case, if the data collector is not available, how are you going to do it? All right. So we'll look at what architecture is supported when it comes to the data collector related to non-Windows, which is Linux. It could be a list, a syslog, a common event file system, whichever is supported. So we'll look into that. So let's move on to the portal. So here I'm going to Sentinel. I type syslog here. I have syslog. And I can go to the connector page. Before I go to the connector page, let's look at the architecture. So collect data from Linux-based source using syslog. It could be a Linux-based server, it could be a MySQL, whichever. So this is a very simple architecture in a nutshell. This is supported, and these are your log sources. It can be Linux device. You can also be sending the data from your firewall, from router, from switches, everything to the syslog server. And then from syslog, you can send it to Azure Sentinel. So imagine if you already have on-premises, or if you have another cloud, you're already collecting the data. Now you think, okay, now I want to put the data into Azure. This is how you're going to perform it. Here is one more architecture that you have so many sources here. They are sending to the data here, log forwarder, and from the log forwarder. So basically you are collecting all these logs on a centralized location here and then sending to Sentinel, versus here you were just directly sending, and it's a log analytics agent, which is the agent from Azure Sentinel. So you will have to install the agent, and basically the agent is different for Azure VM versus a non-Azure VM. You will have to have the agent installed. You will have to have these ports open and set up on the firewall. So this will, if your appliance support, means if your appliance can be firewall, router, switches, if they support common event format over syslog, this is definitely going to work. And log analytics supports collection of messages sent by syslog or syslog ng. These things or commands, or you will have to make sure they're supported. And all the details are here. Machine type, Azure Linux VM, any other VM. So you will have to install the agent, step-by-step instructions there on the Microsoft website. So I would recommend, if you're in a situation, come to this page, have a look, all this information here, and then it should help you and support you. So one more information here related to that is another architecture, which is the supported architecture. Okay. Here, a little bit difference, but more better diagram here. So this is showing if you're all Linux machine in Azure, this is it. Simply, you can start doing that, because as long as you have the agent installed, bingo, simply, you can start sending the logs here. So the reason is that you're running your infrastructure on Azure. And if your syslog is on-prem like this, and they are not Azure VM, then you'll have to install that particular agent. And it is TLS 514 port, whatever is required, you will have to do it. And also there are prerequisites, request and information available, what you will have to do, how do you want to configure the device and everything. And once you do that, how are you going to find the data, for example, right here. So if I come back, click on the data. So this is here. Simply, you have to download, install the agent right here. And then for non-Azure. And I'm not scrolling down furthermore, because it will just show my tenant ID and everything. But I hope that give you high-level ideas. What you have to do now is set up your VM, start playing around and test it. And it's supported, so it should work. You just may need to spend some hours in your lab and make it working. So I hope this is helpful. I'll see you in my next video. Thank you. Hello everyone, thanks for joining in. And today I have something brand new I saw at Azure website. Is about something in public review. It's called ueba, for user behavior analytics. And now they have announced it, and I believe it's in public review or preview. And user and entity behavior analytics basically give you the meaningful insight about particular user. And I'm logged in, as you can see on my screen, where it has an option to configure it. So it's the very first time I just saw it, so I'm just thinking to put a video together, so I'm not sure As we go, we learn what's there, because first time I'm setting it up, this brand new feature. And here, only global administrator or security administrator in your organization can turn this feature on and off. So there are some prerequisites. So I'm logged in as an administrator here on my tenant, so I should not have any problem. But here, if you look at what permissions available, and you can set it up, and it's about how Microsoft is using your data. So this is important because data privacy is important, and then you need to go and deal or read more details about data protection addendum, because depending on the size of the organization your tenant is set up. So in this lab or in this particular setup, I have everything US based, so I do not have any issue. But it's a setup you have across different countries, depending how your log analytics is set up, your SIEM is set up. You may have to pay attention to that. So we'll just go and enable it, but in the meantime I clicked on that feature for the settings and everything, so which I was thinking, but I think we can go back and simply enable it. So as soon as I come back, here's an option to enable it, and I'm gonna go enable and see what happens, because as I said, I do have permissions. I should not have any problem. So now turn on the ueba feature to sync Azure Sentinel with Active Directory, creating profiles for the user and entities in your organization. So you may have to do some work here. Here only global administrator or security admin, so I'll turn it on. Then here I'll have to select the data sources, okay, which is very important. So audit logs and sign-in logs. So basically, if you go and take a look in my previous video about Azure Security Center and Azure Sentinel SIEM, I covered that portion already, where we talk about sign-in logs and audit logs, which pulls from the Azure AD, and also work even in hybrid environment based on the setup you may have. But here, without anything, don't see any issue, and you should be able to find. And here it says after the connection, data source will be able to enable them for entity behavior analytics. So it's telling about once you enable it, it will start just do the analytics around that. So what I'm going to do is that apply now, and it may take some time, and then we will see how soon or when this will be available, is updated. So before I go there, here are some permissions. Again, how do they use the data and everything. So a few seconds ago, so it will take some time, and then we'll see what kind of data is going to pull up. And if I come back home, Sentinel, my tenant, entity behavior. So as you can see, we have this entity behavior, but I don't think so I'll have the data available right after, but maybe it looks like it. Let's go on the overview, but again, that I was not looking for. So there is some information available. Let's have a look. So this seems to be something new, I believe, from this option, investigate. If I want to do investigation here, and then 90 plus admin activity performed. So what are those activities, which I don't know. So I'm going to click on all those 90 activities, and hopefully it will give me the data. So today is September 6th. So these things are performed basically as I'm doing it. You can see it. The things in action perform. But again, I don't want to have any alert for such activities. But if there were some activities done in those dates, which I have not worked any admin activities, then those could be suspicious, and this is what you can start looking into that. So I'll be covering more, but again, just I wanted to give you a very high level since I see this today in my environment, and just wanted to see how simple it is to set it up, and then you can start. So I'll find more stuff and more data, and then maybe in my future videos I'll add some more. Thanks for watching, and bye. Hello folks, welcome again for another episode here on Microsoft Azure Sentinel. As I've been putting some videos around different analytics and the tools available in Microsoft, this is going to be one more area where I would like to share, which you will see in your real life experience. So this type of content will help you not to become a SOC engineer, SOC analyst, but also a security engineer. And the list what I'm showing you right now are the use cases. So for those who just started and becoming a SOC analyst and doing a job today, these skills will help you grow in your career, because when you deal with this, when you investigate, learn, research, all of these, basically this is an organization end up dealing with, because these rules are there for a reason. Okay, means every organization, if you wanted to apply for a cybersecurity job, this is the best way, or one of way to learn it. Whether you're a SOC analyst, you will do some limited work. Whether then you become a security engineer, you need to dig deeper, and you could be a senior level engineer. And this is where, if I pick one of these, I can go into a lot of details and give the scenario. Because if you're SOC analyst, you will just understand, okay, legacy authentication attempt has happened. For example, this one I'm talking about. But what is legacy authentication? These background knowledge you need to know, and this is where it will help you become a good security engineer. This is where it will help you to put in your resume and apply for the job and implement the solution. So what I'm going to do is that I am going to go through one at a time, and from there I will explain, which will help you. So basically, you have the tool, which is good, but if you enable it, okay, that's fine. But you literally need to understand this in order to grow your career. So today I'm going to start with, let's say if you're in an organization, and let's say you were on a project, and in that project you were working with a security engineer to enable multi-factor authentication. Now, if your organization has 5,000 users or 1,000 users, how are you going to make sure that everybody has MFA enabled, right? Because you implemented it, but how would you validate if auditor asks you, if your manager or somebody? So here is one of the rule template available for you to run it, and it will spit out the user which have MFA disabled on their account. This is very important, because this are a use case. This cannot be a user itself. There can be a service account or a script account. So you need to know which user accounts are not configured for MFA, multi-factor authentication. This is very important. So that's why having these knowledge is really important. So there can be a number of scenarios where there is a legitimate requirement for an account not to have MFA. right? There could be some legacy application. They do not support it if you watch my previous videos. So there are some scenarios. So if you have 1,000 accounts, user accounts in your organization, you have databases, applications, and all that, and you know that there are only 5 accounts with MFA not enabled, and you have the list. But once you run it, and guess what? If there happens to be 8 and 10 accounts, there is a problem. So this is how you need to address those situations. This is what you need to then produce in a report and show to your leadership and management, to your manager, and talk about it. Hey, why there are external accounts? So these accounts are enabled with not with MFA. So here is the script. Basically, you can also copy paste the script from here, and then you should be able to run it. So let me click on that and see on the next screen. I should be able to create a logic. So if I go and set a rule logic, what's gonna do is that it will run that script for me, run every hour, run every day. How far you gonna go back? So if I wanna go run it every hour, how far? So let's say if you implement it now, if you're gonna go back from there, or if you can go 1 day, 2 days, 365 days. So depending when did you implement that MFA thing, and this is how you can set your criteria. Or for troubleshooting or anything, let's say if you want to figure out and investigate and investigate something, then you can run that during between that time, and it will find out, okay, from that time to particular time that MFA got disabled, basically. So if, in my case, if I wanted to go to 1 day before, for example, every hour, I don't want to run it every hour, but I'm trying to show you how it's going to work. And automated response, you can do next automated response. You can add a new response here. Rule name, when incident is created, so you can create the logic here, which of course I'm not going to go the logic because I don't do it every day, but it's a workflow. What you want to name it, when incident is created, what condition you want to apply there. If condition blah blah blah, you have to type test rule here. The rule is created, when the rule is updated, condition and or, you have to define the conditions here, what action you wanted to change, a run and assign an owner, basically, and then I can put it myself as an owner. So this is how you can create an automation rule that you're just notifying them. You're not taking any action, but you can definitely do that, and you can also make this rule expire. You see, so this is how powerful it is. And then you can troubleshoot what conditions you need to apply, because I'm not able to see the condition. If you see here, I changed the condition rule name, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, so basically you have to play around with that, okay? And then once you come here, it will show the severity, the credential access, and this can help you prevent credential compromise, basically depending. So enabling these rules is important, but at the same time, you need to understand how these rule works, okay? So I hope that kind of give you an idea that if you're in a situation where you have to find the disabled user accounts, that's the way you do it using Microsoft Azure Sentinel. And how well this is helpful, go give it a try. Let me know how does it work for you in your environment, and stay tuned for some more tutorial. I hope that helps. Thank you. So today, we're doing one more Microsoft Sentinel hunting. So let me go back here. I have hunting thing, as I told you in my previous video. We have all these templates. So what I'm going to do is, last time we did conditional access policies, and we were looking at the data into like 30 days. And when I'm talking, I'm looking at the screen there, so I may not be able to have a eye contact with you directly. Apologize for that. So we have that, and what I'm going to do is find an interesting one. here, and the results you're seeing is basically I am running these. So here is something also the live and all these things there which I have not configured. Security I have, you can always do it, adjust it exactly the way you want it. Okay, so there are something interesting. The SharePoint file operation with client IP with previously unseen user agent means this client has not been used in the past. So let's have a look. What I'm going to do now is to basically go back to hunting. So I don't need that. So there were some admin account activities. Let's try. Okay, I'll try with this one, even more interesting. Right, so let me just view query result, and I'm trying to hide this. I wanted to hide. Give me a second here. So I want to hide. I'm supposed to be hiding guys keys. All right, so it's even better now. So what I'm gonna see is something. So there are a number of ways which we'll have to see what are those activities, and if you look at the time range. All right, so we have seen something here, admin activities, which I can recall what activities I have been doing it. So operation was done, install admin audit log. Admin activity originating server is one of those Microsoft server. So if you're an Exchange administrator, you know what I'm talking about here. Then based on my investigation, I will have to make something. So if you're working a security person, then you will have to then redirect it to the Exchange team in this case particular, and they will have to investigate. So I'm not gonna go and do the investigation here, but giving you the idea what happens, and these kind of activities you have to be watchful, like set OA, mailbox policies, mailbox permission, and user type is DC admin. So basically one of those activities, then it's not specific to some suspicious activity coming from like unknown location or something. So this will look like Microsoft and like Microsoft maybe doing something in the back end. So that could be the reason in that case. So then in a situation like this, you just have to give it back or give this information to Microsoft or your Exchange engineering team, and they will look into this and they will hunt or figure it out. Okay, if it's really legitimate or something suspicious going on. And basically for these type of activities, you got to have some alert monitoring team going to your SOC team, going to your incident response team, whichever. So you know, it can be a lot of work. We have looked into this previously. We just talked about it, this one, because an activities of Microsoft may have performed some activities there. All right, so what we're going to do next here, I was going to share some SharePoint here. So we're going to look into SharePoint 1, which I started initially looking to SharePoint file activity. We go click here, we run the query, or we run the query directly from here. You can look into the technique if you wanted to. You go to an open page and you can find the MITRE attack and techniques everywhere here. So I'm going to run the query here. I am going to see the query result here. And then we'll look into that, what's going on. Again, time range, you can change it. Here I have only one page. There are some services, one note. Okay, so again, I've been using OneNote. Doesn't sound suspicious, so it depends. Since I know it, I've been using it, so that's why it kind of makes sense. So this is where, if you see this kind of activity, if you wanted to set up alert from security operations, security SOC, you do that. But when it comes to Azure Sentinel hunting, when it comes to subject matter expertise, when you come to engineering stuff where you have to dig into those and see what's going on in your environment. So as an engineer, security engineer, Sentinel engineer, you'll have to dig into those. You have to figure it out. Okay, what's going on? What is normal environment in my environment, and what is not normal in my environment? So basically, this is important for you to understand and then take action accordingly. And this is all agents and everything. So I hope that makes sense. One thing I can show you here is you can set the time range here. You can run it to again 7 days. You can change it. Okay, there were no activities in the last 7 days, whichever the case is. So here is another. So I'm going to share one more before I wrap this up. We can go back here and look for some more hunting. If there are some activities going on into the environment. So anomalous sign-in activities. So give me a second. Let me just. All right. So we have this anomalous sign-in activity. If you wanted to find any anomaly, and then we can see that it's worth checking it out because this is one of the most common scenario. We have these happen in the last few days, and you'll have to. I'm not gonna go more like you can see from here evidence is showing okay, false, uncommon, high volume of actions, and all these. This is coming from Microsoft Graph, maybe pretty much Microsoft 365. Exchange Admin Center, I know I used it, so that's why it's there. I'm gonna show. So if you see the Microsoft Graph IP address is different, so this is coming from Microsoft basically. And Microsoft 360 security and compliance. So I used that. I logged in when I launched the Microsoft. So so again, this is an engineering thing. From when you work from a SOC analyst, you may not be dealing with that. So again, the reason I'm telling you again is I have a variety of videos available where I'm talking about SOC analyst job and all that. So this is really specific to Azure Sentinel or security Sentinel related stuff. So you'll have to look into that and figure it out yourself. And see if there are any interesting thing happening. So we're doing for the last 30 days, all these techniques and everything there. So this will tell you the total result of the queries and everything available here. You can run all queries. So you literally can run all queries. So I would not recommend you would want to only run the query, but if you do run it, it's going to take a lot of time. My environment is slow or not too much data, but I don't see a reason that it will cause any issue. It may not, because running on those, because this is the beauty of the cloud, you should be running it. So I'll go run it, so kind of give you an idea of what happens. And now all the queries, when you can see, are running here, and it's going to take some time. And after some time, we'll see some more updated data, updated result here, if there are any changes. If not, then result will remain same, which I hope it remains same. And then here you can see if you click on those, you can see the type of this. See, queries going up, 100 queries, 105. Result count is from jump from 11 to 13 here, and queries being run is 100. it showed 197. So as you can see, this counter is going up and up. So I'll just keep this video running so you can get an idea of the live environment, how these queries are being run. And I'll wait for it to come to 197 and gets completed. All right, so we'll just still wait. And see if there are any significant changes. It's gone up from 11 to 15. Sorting by result here. So now when I'm sorting with the result, as you can see, this is giving me like more details here. 340 related to Active Directory, 330 related to new admin account activity related to Office 365. Now 106 related to sign-in logs. We are looking at SharePoint 11, SharePoint IP, which has not seen before. So these are the things, these are the stuff, when you work as a Sentinel security engineer, Microsoft Cloud Security, Sentinel, these are stuff you have to look into that, dig into that. And from there, you can find out more details. So since I have 100 active, that's why showing 155. So in my next video, I'll show you how to leverage the remaining one, because as I said before, Microsoft keep adding more and more. So in my next video, I'll show you how to add more queries. So that's it for now. I'll wrap it up. If you like it, let me know, provide me feedback, share, like it, and I'll see you in my next video. Thank you and bye.
So we have looked into different type of alerts, low, medium, and high. Now, how do we create those? I want to set up alerts. I want to get notified whenever I come to the dashboard, right? So one of them is that you may want to go and start creating custom alerts. You can run the query, whatever you want it. You can also create incident creation rule. If you create the incident rule, it will come up here in the incident. So if I go back to the incident, which I'm not covering now, when we cover the incident into the threat management, I will show you what I can do it. And once it's created, it's going to populate here under threat management into the incident. But these are the ones. So Microsoft has changed. I have 28 active rules, more content at Content Hub. So Microsoft always changes before I do that. So these, the one, let me go back, analytics. And these are in the Content Hub. So basically what you can do, instead of writing something new, you can install it. And if you definitely wanted to go and learn more about it, this is part of the workbook. It's an analytical rule and part of 8 playbooks. And if you really wanted to know what does it do, there may be known users of Azure Active Directory, which I have showed you. It may have some update for SOAR. So you want to enable it by installing it, like Azure Activity. What you can do, you can select all of them. So let's start with the Log4j, which I do not have any Log4j related stuff in my environment, but I can come here and start installing one at a time. So going forward in the lab, I will show you each one of them, not all of them, but I will take an example for the sum, which is provided by Microsoft. I do not have AWS, but again, we can try that. Same here for Google. There are some community based, which is from GitHub. You can also leverage that. They are populated here. So this is a given idea. There are some standalone, there are some solution based, and you can install, and then we'll start looking for, run the queries in and look for those data in your logs, basically. So you don't have to rewrite, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So I hope this is helpful, and in the next video, I will start at least give you more than one example to better understand it.
All right, so one more episode. And again, in Microsoft Sentinel Analytics, I wanted you to pay attention to all of these as I've been putting back-to-back videos because there's a lot to learn. And especially most of you have been watching my Sentinel videos. Again, if will help you to grow in your career at many levels. So if you're a SOC analyst, it's a no-brainer. It really can help you grow much faster in the market because demand of the skill, if you put in your resume, by learning all these, I can tell you there is no way you will get a job, but also if you're already on the job, you will be promoted or you will be able to find a new job. So there's a lot to it. And that's the crux, that's the meat, that's the lot of valuable information is there. So every organization in the cloud is facing issues. So it doesn't matter it's a Microsoft tool or any SIEM like Sumo Logic, Curadar, Splunk, you name it. They pretty much have all these predefined rules. But how do you make sure these rules are implemented? How do you make sure these rules are effective? And how well do you understand it? This is the most important thing. So these are sorted by high, medium, and low, but not necessarily a medium is a medium. It can be exploited pretty badly. So that's why you need to know your environment. You need to know and understand all these things. Uh, but definitely high ones are the ones you don't want to ignore it. But even within the medium and low, you need to understand. So let me find an example for you, which definitely I think some of them can bring value when you're looking at it. If you have this dashboard available, go take a look. If not, then I'll go through it. I have covered legacy auth before. I've covered MFA. New process observed. That's the good one, but let's see if there is something else. Audit activity we have. And if you look at there also, these are tactics, and these tactics are part of the, I believe it's a MITRE framework. So basically, there are 6 phases, tactics and techniques, and that's the framework they follow. And I've seen the same framework has been followed by different CMAs as well. So framework, understanding the framework is also important. You may want to look it up, just how the MITRE framework work and understand. That's a whole different learning itself and very, very important, specifically into cybersecurity. So again, as I said, there are many areas you can learn and grow. What I'm going to find out, this is the one. And I've seen so many things in the news and so many cyber attacks. If you go and look it up where an hacker or attacker, they will add them to administrative group and nobody will ever notice. And they are in the environment for the last 3 months and 6 months. So I've seen more than one breaches. So whenever there is something new, something breach, go read those case studies. So here it's a straightforward. It's talking about a new user created in the administrative group, and now that particular person has all the access as the default admin group, which is very, very risky. And you definitely want to create an alert for that. You don't want to miss it. And what techniques it can do, it can be persistently staying in that environment, and you will not know. And that will be a valid account in that group. And of course, this is a privileged escalation because that particular user has got now the admin level access. So then, it can be a nasty situation. That's what I'm trying to say. And here is the whole script. Again, you can go to edit and follow these process. How you want to rate this, you can severity, in my opinion, I'll put it to high. This is how I want to pose it and detect it and get notification to the SOC team and the people who are watching. So as a security engineer, as an advisor, security consultant, this I will propose the SOC team and IT security operation. Hey, you should be doing this. And the alert logic It's there. If you go and read the script, event ID is there. So that's the security event ID 4720. You always need to remember this in your head. You should know. And the whole script is written there. And you need to understand what this script is all about. And basically it will run the script. And then alert enhancement, it has all this account, mapping, custom detail if you wanted to add on top of that. How often do you want to run the query? Every day, every hour, every minute, right? So you may want to do it every hour. Look up data from the last 1 day, 2 days. So if you're doing some investigation, let's say, so you want to do it every hour. And if you think something suspicious in your environment, you want to go back a day, or for example, 7 days. If you think something have happened in the 7 days and you want to run it every hour, so you see what's happening in your environment for the last 7 days. But at the same time, you wanted to see, what's been happening today. And you can also do it a specific time range. And from there, you have the incidents triggered, blah, 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 from here. And then automated response to create, and you have to create. So this will create it. So if I wanted to do it, for example, I'm not setting a logic and everything, but let me see if I can get away with that, because I don't want to create an alert because, again, my environment is slow. But it should work, and here you go. You see, now it become high. And it has been scheduled. It was going to run every hour, for example. If we go back again, edit, it's going to run every hour in the last 7 days. This is what I wanted to do it. And then it will come back. Then probably stop running after the alert is generated. After 5 hours, just run, because this is my test environment. That's what I'm saying. And that's it. I don't want to have a dashboard with so much noise of the data. But that's definitely is one of those things you wanted to do it. So with that said, I hope it makes sense, and I will cover some more of these and will explain to you what are those and what should you look for and why do they exist, because this concept is really important. All right, so I hope this is helpful. Stay tuned for the next one. Again, here is another very interesting feature, very interesting use case I'm going to talk about, which you will see if you are a security operations security engineer. Even you get on a new job, you can take this. What would you do as a security best practices if you apply for a new job, if you get hired? These are really valuable information, valuable skill sets. You don't really need so much of an experience as long as you understand, but I highly recommend someone with 2 to 3 years experience in the field of networking and operating systems. You should know all that basic fundamental. You should know all these tools and technologies in the last 3 years. You must have learned it, because these are very important. So if you're coming from network engineer, these are easier for you. From operating system engineering, operating system, Windows, Linux, all that are easier for you. But if you're coming from desktop, then you may have to a little bit skill up. You are new, then you will have to learn this. But having the visibility, having the exposure to this can really move up in your career pretty quick and pretty fast. And the one I'm showing you here is the anomalies option available. And anomalies you will see in every different product. And that's there by design. And machine learning and AI are really helping improve a lot of them. So these are the anomaly detection enabled in my Azure. Not necessarily I have to enable all of them. If you have Azure, go take a look. And you may not even have to enable all of them, because there's a cost to it, which I will tell you what do I mean by cost. It's not a money cost. It can literally bring down your system, because if you look at deletion, it means it will perform some deletion activity. You don't want to do that. Data destruction, I have enabled it, but most likely it can. So you have to be really careful what you do here. password reset. You have to be careful here. User account removal, because this could be part of your wish list that, hey, I want to do everything automated, but you don't want to do the automation at the cost of the downtime, which can cost a business millions and $1 million. You don't know until you don't know what's causing. So that's why in security engineering, it is very important. And you keep the track, you need to monitor, you need to manage whenever you enable it. And the best practice is you want to do it one at a time. It's my test environment. That's why I have everything enabled, because for the security of my environment, and I'm not running anything which can cause or bring my system down. Okay. So in your lab environment, you're okay to do that. However, in your regular production environment, you have to pay very good attention, like unusual network anomaly detection. Yeah, that's a good one, right? So let's start with one at a time, because anomaly detection, I think, how many of them are there? 55. So I don't plan to put 55 videos, but at least I will cover the good ones, or the one I think are the important one, maybe the one with the destruction and creation. So kind of give you an idea things what you should be doing or not. So this is disabled. So let's take a look. What does it mean? So anomaly account deletion. So basically what it's going to do, it will say right here, may interrupt availability. So if you enable it, and if the condition set true, it may interrupt availability of the system. Interruption availability of a system, it means it can cause some downtime. It can disconnect, reboot, whatever can happen depending where that account is being used. If that account is a service account and that's get deleted, or your application will stop working. If there's a scheduled task or whatever. So again, this can create a lot of damage. So you really don't want to enable it. If the network resource inhibiting access to accounts, blah, 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 this account will be deleted, logged, or manipulated. So really don't want to do it unless you really want to do it when this gets detected. So Sentinel detects anomalies based on dynamic and baseline behavior, blah, 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 triggered by the correlation. It will create the correlation of different attributes based on the criteria of geolocation, device, source, and all that. Okay, so let me take a look. If I click edit, I was looking at the criteria, basically anomaly detection again here. So it has this criteria, and you can find more details here. Anomalies are saved to new anomalies table in Microsoft Sentinel. It says where does it save, what will be the impact, account access removal. So basically account access removal will happen, and when enabled, the rule runs in production mode, runs every day. And when enabled, the rule runs blah, 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 this version. So if you go here, you'll find some more details about this on Microsoft advisory website. They have more details, guidance. Then it also talks about how would you detect. So basically you go to the logs, you search for anomalies. Basically you're doing a threat hunting, and then you can run a script contain unusual mass, blah, blah, blah. And then step by step, it has the detail, how would you go about it. Okay. So that's all security engineering. As a security engineer, you are doing the investigation and making sure. And then you'll find. So step-by-step details are available. And when you want to do the production or not. So again, you have to do homework. You just don't want to enable it. Okay. So this is something particular I wanted to show you. Use case here. Flight mode. You can do the flight mode here, means it will be in a testing mode, so lab mode enable to test anomalies. So basically, this is what you want to do it if you want it to start, and it will just detect and it will not take any action. This is very important. Okay. And you can submit the feedback, blah, blah, blah. You save it. For example, if I'm going to save it, and I should be able to see, it should have been enabled. Yeah, you see it's in flight mode right there. So that's the way you do it. If you like it, let me know, and I will be covering some more anomalies because this is a very important area for you to understand when it comes to this type of work. So that's being said, stay tuned for more.
In this case, we have another interesting one, which is user agent search for log4j. So basically, it will run the query against various log sources having user agent data to look for this. Basically, user agent data can be in any of these services. This log4j script or log4j file can be residing, or the variants can be residing in my 365 SharePoint, one of these, and somebody can get access to it and then get the initial access based on that. So again, I have some log sources because I do not have Zscaler and all that. That's fine. If I were to have firewall from the Azure, it would have been showing there. But at least in our example, we have a 365, which I told you, make sure you set it up, start ingesting the log. If you just started looking at this video, you have to set up your tenant. You have to start ingesting the log. So does Azure Active Directory. These are the data connectors available. You can just pull the data directly through an API. Simple and pretty easy. And things you don't see here, most likely the case because of the Azure Premium 2 license subscription, which I don't have. I'm using P1. And then exploit public facing application. Basically, that's what it's mapping to MITRE framework. Now, if I come here, initial access, we're talking about exploit public facing application because Exchange, SharePoint, these are all public faces. And that's what it is. It's in high. Create, I can test this. That the simulation works fine without any error. Once that's been done, if you want to add any custom field, which I would suggest you to leave it if you are doing it first time, then you can always play around with that. Run query every 1 day for log4j. Look up data from the last 1 days. If you're running every day, you want to do it. If you run every 3 days, so you don't want to skip, you got to be 3 days. So if you want to do 1 day, then you're going to skip the 2 days. So that's why we have to make sure you cover these things. Group all events and then enable it, and it should be enabled. Validation, this is the whole script there. It's going to look for W3. This is if you remember, it's an IS. There used to be an information server, web server, Azure Diagnostic Log. If you have logs being collected from AWS CloudTrail, you see, so it's also supported. You can set up a connector and then create it. So here it shows you that is in being used.
All right, folks, thanks for joining in. And in this tutorial, in this video, I'm working on feedback. And feedback was to provide you some baseline of the rule templates. As you can see on my screen, I posted this video around how to configure rule templates and Microsoft Sentinel. So those who are new, this is all about setting up your Microsoft Azure Sentinel for security as a SIEM. And I put so many videos, so go take a look at the whole playlist of cloud security engineering. But those who are familiar in this, I am taking your feedback. Somebody posted that, can you share baseline rule that you would consider starting point for a production environment? Yeah. So here is Microsoft Sentinel rule templates. And as you can see, I have so many of them enabled, disabled, depending on the testing and the needs. So this is my production environment, but again, this production environment will not hurt me. It's not the where I have so many data. But if you are in your environment, you may want to try first with the POC environment and take it to production and follow your company's policies or your customers, because there is some change management procedures. You just don't want to go and deploy those. So that's a very important thing. So you have to understand, if you enable something, ask them, does it have to go through a change management process, or you just send them an email, hey, this is what I'm going to do, because they would want to know the impact. So since there is no impact, it's all logging and monitoring. That's what I'm saying. You have to communicate. And as I said here, when you wanted to baseline, what will happen, majority of the cases, 50 to 70% of the baseline will match what I'm going to give you. But every environment is different. So the baseline can be 20, 30% going to be changed. It cannot be 100%, because your environment, my environment is different. If I go to customer A is manufacturing, you go to customer B, who is a law firm, the baseline can be changed. But again, 50 to 70% will remain same, and that's works. That's a sweet spot. That's going to work. So we'll look into that. And also, one very important thing for you to understand, for you to know, is to know the environment. So if a customer wants you to implement those, if you are new on a job, you spend a week or a couple of weeks, first day in the job, you don't know the environment, right? You don't know what servers they're running, what identities they have, how many service account, whether you use Defender for endpoint or something else. So this is all called the decipher the environment, understand the environment. We call it a discovery phase. So I took this course from SANS last year, which is for CISO leadership course. Basically, the only reason I'm mentioning this, in this course, they have the whole area which is talking about decipher the environment. So if your company can sponsor it, it's a CISO leadership course. So pretty good. But the only point I'm making is that they have a dedicated section on just to decipher the environment. So same concept, thought process is applicable here. As I said, discover the environment. So when you gonna go with the baseline, which I will give you, but ask those questions. Hey, how many Windows server we have? SQL boxes? Are there any old systems which will require some legacy authentication, may not support MFA? This is important one. For identity and access management, or Azure ID, which is now Entra ID. Do you have people logging in from outside US or not, or outside those countries? Endpoint questions. You just don't want to go and enable those, because this is not going to be helpful at all. So you must understand your environment. So let's take a look. As you can see on my screen, so what I will do is that I have 32 rules enabled. I can go and disable all of them if I want to, because as I said, let's start from scratch, and all rules are disabled, or it's going to take time, which is fine. It's a live lab, and it still shows me the one which are enabled. So let's see, does it disable them or not? Okay, basically what is doing one at a time, I just noticed. So that's going to take forever. So what I'm going to give you the baseline one. So let's select the one I definitely want to have. So I'm going to give you 10 rules. 10 is always the best. You always want to go with not exceeding 10, because you're going to overwhelm yourself and the people you work with. So we'll take the 10. Failed login attempt by expired account. So if the account is expired and still you see the login attempts, you want to monitor those, because somebody got hold of them and they may have credential leaks. So you have to work around that. And then here is the script. I'm looking at the screen side on my left, on my right side. That's why I'm looking at there. So that's there. Second one, so this is, I'm going to enable it. All right, so this one is new user created and then added to built-in administrator. This is the most critical one. So again, this can be your first priority, that you don't want to have any account. You want to monitor any accounts. So the hacker gets into environment and give that account admin level permission. That's a big concern. You want to monitor that. Log4j, again, if you have Cisco devices, any devices which run, but if you are a startup, you're 100% in the cloud, then it may not be even applicable. So you understand, again, decipher your environment. You need to understand your environment. Real-time elevation requested. Yeah, we'll see. So we have done so far 2 of them. Guest account is very important. So this is the third one. Guest accounts added. The third one is a guest account. So this one, new user created, field logon. So I'm putting a checkbox there. Legacy authentication alert, again, as I said before, this is important only if you're running SQL Server from 2008, you have Linux boxes and all those, and those do not support any new operating system. But if you're a startup, so who's fresh in the environment, you have all the latest and greatest operating system. So this is applicable, not applicable. So again, know your environment. So it can be considered. Here we have some about sensitive data. So sensitive data, as long as you know your environment, if you're running a blob storage or anything along those lines, and then you need to consider detecting some sensitive data. Otherwise, you don't need to. Social security, again, same. If you're putting some social security or similar credit card details, then it's required. Otherwise, you don't need from the day first. MFA disabled, yes, this is important. MFA disabled one, because if you have joined, it's very common for many organizations to use MFA, but I've seen some organizations, they do not have any MFA. So if you're in an environment where there is no MFA, or not everybody is using MFA, let's say if you have 100 people and out of 150 use MFA, 50 don't, then again, it will be difficult to monitor. But if your manager asks you, hey, give me the list of accounts which do not have an MFA enabled, that's a different thing. But MFA disabled will give you, let's say if your organization have a MFA enforced policy, and then you want to see if still there are accounts which are MFA disabled, then it can be helpful. And here you can help prevent credential compromise. The alert identifies when an attempt has been made to disable MFA for a user. So even much clearer if somebody's tried to disable the MFA. So if I'm a user and if I'm trying to disable my MFA because I don't need it, I don't like it, there are users, then it will trigger an alert and then you can enforce it. So it's a good to have. Anomaly detection, yeah, definitely you wanted to have anomaly detection regardless. Legacy login attempt with legacy auth. Again, it's applicable depending if you have any legacy auth or not. So far we talked about these two. New user login attempt, expired account, and guest user account, the most critical one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have so far new process will look into that. Let's see. 5 we have. All right, Office Exchange audit log disabled. This is the important one for your Microsoft emails. I would consider it. If you see here, all these 3, 4s are basically advanced threat protection, Microsoft Defender, and Microsoft Cloud Apps. So this is only applicable if you have, I believe, E5 or P2 subscription, or you have to pay extra. So if you have the license for that, then you may want to consider it if you're using Defender and Cloud App Security and all that stuff. Failed logon attempts on Azure, yeah, that's, you can enable it. So a brute force attack, then Microsoft has a lot of details available. So once you identify which account you have to take different directions how to overcome that situation. But definitely you want to monitor one of those. So 6, multiple RDP connections from single system. Depending again if you have any VM exposed. So this is an important one. Do not expire password. So definitely this is the 7th one. You definitely want to have an account where it says there is no password expiration. Usually these are break class account and along those, but you can have a longer retention. But again, that's the only account you need to know. You don't want to have 20 accounts like that. You may want to have 1 or 2. So that's one of those. Audit activity. So this is about you may want to audit activity by user. User accounts failed to log on. This is the 8th one. I would recommend you need to find out if there are multiple accounts they're failing. And you also want to read here, like, what it can cause. It can be persistent thing. Somebody can do a lateral movement, a conditional access, privileged access. So you want to monitor that. So these are the 8 one. We got 2, but I think we have enough 8 is I think I just don't want to do it 10 for the sake of 10. 2, 3, unknown IP. I don't think so. 3, 4, 5, 6 we just added. Admin activity we want to add 9. All right, exchange audit logs failed on. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We got 8, and I believe there is one more. Audit legacy or AD account do not expire is 9. So if you look at most of them out of these, majority of them I have considered, and even the rule templates available from Microsoft is around identity. So that's in the cloud. Your identity is first line of defense. You want to make sure how an identity can be compromised through and what can happen. So somebody can send a phishing email, identity can be compromised. Accounts not using MFA, account can be compromised. There are 4,000 accounts attempt per second. I think the latest report available from Microsoft. So due to computational power, they can easily break into the account with the plain password. So you want to have MFA. So that's the second one. You can get a SIEM phishing email. Somebody, disable it. So it's all around account compromise. And once the account is compromised, they can just go and add them to the admin account. Again, this is identity. So account is compromised. Somebody added themselves to another privileged account. So it's all about identity. They need to get access. So this is where you need to have MFA. You need to have restricted IP. You need to have multiple layer of defense control. Even sometimes MFA is not even helpful. So we've seen those attacks. So that's pretty much in a nutshell I wanted to show you today. I hope this is helpful. And stay tuned. I will be putting some more stuff about cybersecurity frameworks and some about controls, assessments. So stay tuned, and I appreciate your feedback. Thank you and bye.
In the previous lab, we went through the near real-time privilege elevation or PIM elevation. Let's look it up. What do we have in the template? NRT. And in the NRT, we have to look for first the high severity. The one we already configured, it says already in used. This one is also very important because it's about domain federation. So what is a domain federation? Of course, the whole topic. But here's the keyword ADFS, means your authentication is being done through your on-premises Active Directory. So it is specifically for hybrid environment. If you're 100% Microsoft 365 online shop, if you do not have any hybrid connectivity from your on-premises Azure Active Directory, then it's not applicable. But if you have on-premises infrastructure, if you have ADFS setup, this is what you need to think. This is what you need to set it up. This is what you need to worry about, because for ADFS, there you have to put the certificates and ADFS server. Even for setting up Microsoft 365, where you have your authentication being done through on-premises. So as long as you have that set up, you need to considering enabling this in your environment. So again, you click on those links, you come here, and then you have to understand that, like, because it's enable single sign-on. So basically your identity infrastructure can be compromised. You want to be watchful for that. So the whole article. But again, this is for you to escalate it for your team who manages that ADFS infrastructure. Most likely those teams are Microsoft Azure Architect, Microsoft 365 Architect. This is where you will have to notify them or your point of escalation. But, this should be part of your monitoring. And again, there are audit logs. So you have to have those audit logs from sign-in logs from Microsoft 365 and audit logs. So these are there. So I do not have enabled because I do not have Active Directory environment. But again, this is for you to consider as long as you have Microsoft ADFS connectivity with your own premises, which is a very common scenario. Many companies do use that, where they have their authentication being done on premises, single sign-on, all that. So you will have to work with those teams, and these are all the scenarios and everything mentioned here. So again, if this is the case, you better enable this template.
All right, folks, thanks for joining in another episode. And all these things are very interesting, and I wanted to share with you because this is literally in every organization which is running Microsoft 365, they're running Microsoft Azure, even with AWS, and soon I am expecting to see GCP integration. I was going through it and wanted to share some of the stuff. This is you can bring and do the discovery in Amazon or AWS against sensitive data, which is achievable through Microsoft Purview. So you will have to enable those. So that goes to the concept of multi-cloud security strategy. So just wanted to share if you have that. But here today, I wanted to talk about not the active rules, run templates. If you look at these templates, I'm using a few of them in my environment based on the needs I have, because this is my production at the same time, my lab environment. But it's a live environment, basically, where I use my primary email in Office 365, my particular private tenant. So you literally will have to go through it, but you have to understand before you create any of those or make use of them, which I will show you if you watch the video all the way to end. But again, this is good for SOC analyst, security engineer, all the way if you want to become a security architect, because these kind of things will help you. Because if you want to be customer facing, if you want to help a customer and the customer is using Microsoft Defender, then you can tell them how this SIEM can help them leverage these tools and technologies and give them the visibility in the environment. So that's from the architect mindset, consultant, and advisor. When you're a security engineer, you need to know how to set up Defender and how to bring those stuff. Basically, when you're SOC analyst, basically you just watch it and you get notified, and then you escalate it to a next level. So you see, these things are interrelated. Where do you start from? You have a career growth. And of course, for consultant, advisor, architect, there is a lot of room for you to learn as well. So that's being said, let's move on some of these things. So these are the rule types. These are all Microsoft security related rule types. Data source here is very, very important, because here, if this rule template to work, you have to have Microsoft Azure directory identity protection, as you can see. Entra ID, this is a new name. If I go back, and Microsoft Azure Active Directory identity protection. This is very important. If you do not have the source of the logs, this will not work. Same thing here. You have to have Microsoft Defender for identity needs to be enabled, which there, in my case, Microsoft Defender for Cloud, I have not enabled it. For example, create incidents based on this one, Microsoft Defender for IoT. You have created incident based on Microsoft Defender for 365. So as you can see, we have different flavors of Defender. I'm not surprised, because I know Microsoft has at least 4 or 5 different offerings. That's why. And this is Microsoft 365 Insider for risk management. Mean insider risk management mean if there is an insider threat, are there any risk from your insider user? So you should be able to pull the data. So this is where it goes back to the concept of data connectors. And data connector ingest the file from these, and that's how it's going to work. So enabling it may not give the visibility if you do not have a particular license or something available. So that's why if you're running it, it may work, may not. So that's why. And there is one anomalous RDB logging. That's under the category of ML behavior, because machine learning will look at the behavior if somebody is trying to log into your remote desktop based on Windows security event, basically. So that's what it'll, and this is the criteria it will look for. Unusual IP. This IP is accessing that virtual machine or desktop that has not been seen in the last 30 days if you work from home from a particular computer and log into that machine. But that happens to be a request coming from a different IP that will invoke this alert. Unusual geo means if the IP address is from a different location, not from US, and it's coming from any part of the world, then it will invoke it if there's a new user, right? So basically, that's the criteria in this scenario. If any of these conditions is true, alert get triggers, machine learning automatically send it. So imagine how would you do it if you were to do it manually? This is AI and machine learning and security kind of is helping you. This is where the power of machine learning and artificial intelligence. They do have also one more here for SSH secure shell login here. Same thing, right? But it will look for different port. SSH port is different RDB, but the criteria you look at here is pretty much the same. So what you'll have to do is configure this template. You can create the rule, whichever you wanted to do it, and then set it up according to your need. I hope this helped how the rule templates work in Microsoft Sentinel. Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in my next video. Thank you. Bye. Hey folks, another episode on Microsoft Sentinel. And today I'm going to talk about a little bit on a situation where you need to automate some tasks, automate some responses, automate some of those notifications. So let's take a look. So there could be a situation where you need to have an automation. And for that automation, there are some built-in capabilities available in Sentinel, or where you can send some alert notification. So imagine your organization, you have Microsoft 365, you run Teams, or you have a distribution list. So you might be running some Slack. So how would you make sure you get, or your particular team get notified? That's an important thing, because you don't want to go and manually watch and monitor. So that's an important one. Also, if you wanted to block an IP address, right? So you wanted to reset a user password, there are some automated tools. But again, when you deploy those, make sure
you fully understand that. So there are capabilities available. So let me show you and share a screen what those are and how can you set it up, what are the capabilities and how it can help, because I have so many scenarios as I talked about. So even I've seen in organization and also to the third party who offer managed service providers. So let's take a look. So here we are talking about recommended playbooks, and this is how you achieve it. So Microsoft already provided this playbook where you can leverage those. You don't have to basically reinvent the wheel and write those. So you can have those to post a message in Microsoft Teams channel. So this is a SOAR, security operations automated response, SOAR. So SIEM, we talked about it, but it also has a SOAR feature where you can automate security orchestration or automation, security orchestration, automated response. And there's also for the Outlook where you can send it in an email to a distribution group, right? You have Slack option available, and you can also take these because these are very important, because there are some bad IP addresses you get attacked, something along those lines. So you can have this enable. Password reset I have seen many times. That also helpful. And where the user can just go and change the password, do the reset by themselves. So you can leverage those. And there are also playbooks, as we can see, create an incident using Microsoft Forms, relate alerts to incident, create a service now incident, which is, I just saw it first time, which is very good. So I'm going to click on it. I'm not sure, I did not use it. So it will take you to the GitHub. And basically what it's going to do, create a service now instance username password. So basically you have to set it up and deploy it to Azure. So it means the code is already available here. You just have to deploy it. So make sure you deploy in your test environment. Azure Gov Cloud is a different cloud. And here the post deployment process. So basically for any organization who want to automate it and integrate with Snow, I think you definitely want to try it out. So that's, I think, a good playbook available. And I hope it works the way it is. But again, if you're using it, let me know if you are going to use it and see it's worked the way it is. So, but again, this is all about automation. So if you like it, let me know. I'll see you in my next video. Thank you and bye. All right, guys. One more video on Sentinel. And when we talk about Sentinel, Sentinel is all the time is all about any SIEM. You want to take it to the next level where you need to learn automation. And let me share my screen. So I hope you're able to see my screen. So automation, what do I mean is that by that, I mean, I have shared my previous videos. If you have been watching my tutorial, we talked about data connectors, and Sentinel or SIEM basically is relying on the logs from different sources. And there are individual data connectors. You go configure it and then connect it and ingest the log. There are native data connectors, there are third party. So that's the best way to learn. But as you go on, as you gain more experience, the next thing is to automate it. Because now you have learned what data connectors are, what do they do, how does it work? And then if you are in a project, you have to speed it up. And if you've been doing it, now you need to do some automation. So the thing which takes 3 days, 4 days, or 5 days to individually configure the data connectors now can be done within an hour. And that's what we're going to talk about. I found some stuff on Microsoft website. And then I have not used this thing, but this particular thing is talking about PowerShell. So scripting is important. It's not mandatory, but scripting can make your life much easier. So what I'm going to show you on the screen now is all Azure Sentinel. It's been for a couple of years. If you have not come across, I would highly recommend go and take a look. And other people must be using it. But again, for you to develop the career, it's a good way to do it. and they have ARM template and they have scripts. So before we get into it, it talks about it. I can put the link, or you can see here, all in one. So you can Google it, or most likely I will be able to put on the description while I'm recording. So there's a PowerShell script and there's an ARM template. So ARM template basically which will automatically do it. And PowerShell script is going to configure and set up all these data connectors for you. Incident creation, basically. So we'll look into that. What are those? So here is a list. And it talks about threat intelligence specifically. Require additional setup documented. We are not going to go there. We're just going to go the plain simple for today is when you run this script is going to configure and set up these connectors for you, like Azure Activity. So again, I'll make a pause. If you're watching this first time, then you need to learn and manually configure it, because if you just go and run the script, it will configure it itself and you would never know what these data connectors are and how does it work. It will work, but you will not have any understanding. So don't do the shortcuts. Make sure you learn it. This is the important thing. You must understand how does these things works. Basically, this is important. So Azure connectivity is one of the data connector. No license is required. Subscription reader is free. Azure Security Center is available and free. What type of permissions you need. So security reader Azure Active Directory, Azure Active Directory license, global admin or security admin, they will bill you. So there will be billing, which you will know after 30 days, I believe. Directory identity protection, you need premium 2. So basically you're paying for the P2 license, but the cost is free. I believe the cost is free for the ingestion, but you still be paying premium. But if you don't have premium, then it would not work. 365 is free. It has always been free. So you can always, in 365, it pulls the log from Microsoft Team, Exchange, and one more, the Microsoft Team, email is Exchange, and I believe the SharePoint. Microsoft Cloud App Security, Microsoft Threat Protection, Defender, they have threat intelligence. As I said, you have to do some more configuration so you can still be running in the script. Security events, Linux and all that, they will bill you because basically it's ingesting the logs. So if you have a Linux server, a virtual server on premises, you're pulling the logs, you will be charged, which is very common scenario if you're ingesting the data. DNS in a preview, but this article is old. So again, I'm just talking specifically if you want to run the script, and easy peasy. So do it in your lab environment, set up a lab subscription and do it there. And once you log into your portal, deploy, open this link, deploy it, then you should be able to run it. You will need PowerShell core. And here is the usage, how you're going to run it. And this script user contact, if you want to change the subscription, you can choose it. So basically you'll have to go to your PowerShell, open that file in a notepad and change it. And then you can change the parameter if you want to set it up for a particular resource group. So I believe you know the resource group. If you don't know, again, go back and study Azure fundamentals. And then you need to understand your workspace, and location is important. If you're in Europe or versus US, that's important. So if you're a US-based company, you want to set it up in US. If you're a European-based company, then you have to select that particular region for your Sentinel workspace. So that's you have to plan upfront. If not logged in automatically, the script will ask you the login and all that stuff. So once you do in the POC environment, then you will get a much better idea. And here they have a tutorial, the video step by step. It talks about it, data connectors, analytics, and all that. So go watch this, and I already put on off there. And Sentinel1.ps1 script, how you run it. It's showing step by step. And then workspace and all that, you can define those parameters basically. Or you can write in the script and East region basically. And there you go, simple, easy. This is how it's showing. You have to prompt for the password. You have to put your password. And do it in your POC environment. Once you're done, again, it just should be smooth. And if you're concerned about production environment, yeah, that's not going to cause any downtime, because it's just pulling the logs and setting up the connector. The only worst thing is that you will see some traffic for the logs ingesting, so keep monitoring that. Logs are the logs. First time you'll see more high traffic, and then there will be some what you call incremental logs. So first time, if you have data, it can have a gigs of logs, and you can see that, especially when there are something which is related to the billing. So once that is done, then you should have your environment up and running. So I hope this is helpful when you wanted to implement, use the script more and more. It's automated, but again, it's for if you're only experienced and if you have multiple customers, you want to deploy it, you're going to do a proof of concept, you want to run some lab, but you cannot go wrong with that. So I hope this is helpful, and I will see you in my next video.